Good morning, bar. Welcome back to the Beyond All Reason Fight Night. Today, XIX Fight Night. Oh gosh, what is that? 19? Is that 19? Wow. Fight Night 19. They're getting big today, and apparently today we're going to be taking a look at some top tier players as well. It's your host, The Brightworks. I'm going to be walking you through why today is going to be an especially exciting opportunity to take a look at exactly maybe some of the best 1v1 that it gets to around here. I think it's probably safe to say that this is going to be some of the best 1v1 gameplay that you're going to see anytime soon in the Beyond Our Reason community. It's a rare opportunity, and an opportunity I personally wouldn't miss out on for the world. So, walk with me, talk with me here as we get our way underway here and see what's going down. I'm just double checking all the settings right here to make sure that it looks all nice and beautiful for your viewing pleasure. And as I do that, I do want to welcome each and every one of you, especially a lot of the newcomers that I've seen added to the community as of late. I think it's important that we give them a fair welcome. Welcome them to the carnage as you get slaughtered, learning your way around the game. I hope you enjoy yourself. I hope you meet some new friends. It's going to be a good time, and I think you're all going to enjoy it. So, looks like we are ripe and ready here on this side. I'm just going to reach out to my admins one more time, double check that everything looks good. And if that's the case, whoops, sorry, didn't mean to avert your ears with a little bit of a Windows notification there. Hope you enjoyed that. Mwah. From me to you. Let's see, let me hit this button. Perfect, announcement is live. Hope you guys have hope you guys are having a wonderful day. It's nice and bright and early in the morning for me. I know some of my EU folks are celebrating the end of their day right now. I hope you're having a lovely evening if that's the case. Let me go ahead and double check. Any Jurassic Park fans out there? I'm a big Jurassic Park fan. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a big Jurassic Park fan. A big one, too. Not like, you know, I know all the dinosaurs. I know all the dinosaurs. Let me double check here. I gotta make sure that everything's looking good. We are now live and away in a big way. If you didn't see the announcement, you're more than welcome to join my Discord channel. There's tons of links to it. You can find my YouTube channel, Brightworks Gaming, YouTube, whatever. There's tons of links to join the YouTube channel, but suffice it to say that we're ramping up production here. And I have a big announcement about it. I believe there'll be an announcement in the official Beyond Our Reason channel as well at some point. It's going to be awesome. There's a lot of cool stuff that I hope you guys are excited for. I know I'm extremely excited for. Really, that's all that matters, right? You guys like an excited commentator? I feel like that's fair. I feel like that's totally fair. Let me go ahead and hop into my little analysis machine here. Get my charts and whatnot flowing properly. Make sure that this is all coming up nicely. Are we good? Oh, okay. There we go. Ah, there we go. Okay, stream is probably coming up right about now. Hello, everybody. I see the YouTube chat. So one of the fun things about the way that today is happening, and from now on, forever is happening, is of course that we are actually going to be going ahead and dual streaming. So we're going to have people all over the place, streaming left, right, up, down, all over and around. It's going to be awesome. Looks like we should be coming online here. Finally, the delay has run out. So, to be fair, to preface all this, there's a 3-minute delay. Wait, no, sorry, it's a 2-minute delay? It's a 180-second delay, so 6, 12, 18. Ah, that's 3 minutes. Brightworks does math live on stream. No streamer has ever attempted before. The very first one to ever count to 180 by increments of 60, and it equals 3, so that tells me it's about a 3-minute delay. What that means to you, though, is that unfortunately I'm going to be a little bit behind the times as far as chat goes, but don't worry, you'll still get my genuine reaction. I might just be a little slow on the draw there, partner. Just making sure that it's popping up properly on the actual main Twitch channel. I think the YouTube channel is receiving me properly, but I don't think the multi-stream is working quite yet. I'm not sure exactly why. Let me double check my keys. Huh. Huh. We're gonna wait around. In the meantime, how is everybody? How's everybody doing? How are you doing over on the YouTube channel? If you're here from the YouTube, wave hello. We're gonna have Twitch and YouTube going simultaneously. A little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of here and a little bit of there. Trying to do it all at the same time. Should be good fun. Gotta keep a good balance, you know what I mean? Gotta keep a real good balance. It's important in life to keep a real good balance. Just making sure. Yeah, looks like we're waiting for a time limit to come up. 4 p.m. here, the sun is down. Oh, nice. Sun is down and dinosaurs are up. Oh, wow, what's that emoji? That's a good one as well. That's a real good one. Yeah, I like that. For anybody who might not know, for anybody who might be watching over on the Twitch, YouTube has some very strange emojis. Yeah, it's it's there's some very bizarre ones. It's a little bit strange. Let me see. We're 6 minutes in, so we should be seeing the Twitch pop up eventually here. That's what I'm waiting on. That's what I'm waiting on. Something tells me that something has gone wrong here. Let me double check that signs are green. Pardon me. Let's see what's going on. Why is this not happening? Show me your best match. Oh. Ladies and gentlemen. Whoa, pardon me, I'm gonna cough real quick. Phew. I've got this cool panic button. I've got this panic button on my microphone for when I have to sneeze or cough or something so I don't blow your ears off. I can can hit the button and then it won't make a massive loud noise. Oh, there we go. Hey, look at all those links. Nice. Okay, it looks like it's popped up finally. Bar time. Happy Monday. Oh, yeah. Oh, baby. We are back and we're up in a big way right now. There we go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were here for the pre-chat, if you were here for the coming up to speed chat as we lifted the bar up and into the sky, I think you guys are going to be in for a treat. I want to welcome everybody now who's tuning in. Welcome to the live stream. It looks like Twitch is up and running, so now we have the VOD from both sides. Looks cool, looks good, looks hot. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a fun treat. Looks like whatever needed to happen on the back end to make this work has happened on the back end to make this work. That's all I need. That's kind of how I like to see it. There we go. All right. Oh, and the announcement is out as well in the tournaments channel here for the actual Beyond All Reason server. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time. Let's dive right into this leaderboards here. Let me pull up my stats and whatnot here. If I go ahead and click on this. Alrighty, so here's our bracket for today. I'll actually refresh this page just to make sure that we get the most up-to-date one. Yeah, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, what a stacked bracket it is indeed. You can see Alt F4 Ubivator is going to be playing today. We have the dual leaderboards over here, and you can see it is a massive, massive leaderboards. This is a huge OS leaderboards. Alt F4 clocking in at number 15 on the leaderboard. Gonna be showing us what he's got going up against User 001JA. Are they up here on the leaderboard as well? Let's take a look. User 001AJ. I don't see him. Okay. Gonna have to show us what they've got against Alt F4. Alt F4, a player that I know is known to have tremendous APM and a lot of skill controlling a lot of little units, is also an Armada commander, so we'll definitely be taking a look at that game. We've got Pro Randy, a name to know, a name to fear. Pro Randy gonna be showing us what he's got. Currently number 5 on the leaderboard, clocking at 50 open skill and for 50.41 open skill, going up against Pooman. Pooman, the hero from Down Under in the worst of ways, not in the Australian way. Gonna be showing us what he's got, apparently. I'm excited to see this game, but a little bit intrigued, I can't lie, by where this name came from. We've got Modulo as well. I believe, yeah, there we go. Up in the top 10 as well. Modulo clocking in at 43.93 OS, and Corkavel gonna be playing here as well. Corkavel, not a name that I recognize. So it's funny. All of these are like a name that I recognize really wholeheartedly and a name that I haven't seen before. It's kind of funny that we're just seeing them going back and forth. And, of course, we've got Nebuchadnezzar going up against Domino. Domino, are you on the leaderboard, my friend? Let me check. I can't tell. I don't see Domino on the leaderboard here. Gonna be showing us what he's got. I thought Barcast TV was in here as well, but I guess maybe he dropped out of the tournament or some such. As you can see, it's a very small tournament for this week. 2, 4, 6, 8 players in total. Usually it's closer to 12. All that means is that today's gonna be action-packed. There's gonna be a lot, and I mean a lot, of top-notch games. Each and every one of these should basically be a top-notch game, but why don't we go ahead and take a look. And make sure that there's no games going on, first and foremost. I don't want to miss a game if there's already a game going on, but in the meantime, we'll we'll pop on over and we'll take a look at the map pool. So, for the map pool today, let me pull up my other screen and my other you know, tools of the trade, if you will. It's this one. Here we go. If we pull this up, switch on over here. First map of the day is going to be Comet Catcher. There it is. There it is. An asteroid-laden wasteland. Large, mostly flat map that can be played east to west or north versus south. Interesting for anything from 1v1 to 8v8. Vehicles do have the upper hand. Comet Catcher is probably the most familiar map on this entire thing. It's just one of those maps that we see all the time, all over the place. Just basically, I mean, does Comet Catcher really need much of an introduction? I feel like maybe it doesn't. Double checking you. Sorry, admins are contacting me. Let's see. Okay, sorry. Stall of game. Next one is Istis Crack. Istis Crack, another map that I feel like we've seen all the time here. Let me go on back to maps overview. Istis. It's Istis Crack. There it is. That always trips me up. Istis Crack, another 1v1 map that we see all the time. It's got, of course, this obvious crack down its mother's back, and then, of course, all these little high ground plateaus. Should be very interesting to see the top-notch players trying to micro essentially two different armies simultaneously. Kind of reminds me of the way that, oh gosh, what is it called? It reminds me of the way that Ragnarok works, where there are some lanes where you have to fight two fronts at the same time and try and manage all that. It's very, very fun. Cold Place going to be the next map on the docket, and I love Cold Place. This is one of those maps that always brings out the most creative. I think it rewards Armada in a lot of ways too, with the funky terrain on the northern side that Tix can take advantage of. I think it really allows Armada to shine. Next up we have, looks like it's going to be Theta Crystals. Theta Crystals, pretty much, you know, classic map. Usually, though, this is played as a 3v3 or a 4v4. It'll be interesting to be seeing how it's played as a 1v1, because, of course, there's a lot of open lanes right here, right? There's this northern lane, this big mountaintop that you kind of have to contest. There's this big flat terrain on the southern side that you have to contest as well. It'll be interesting to see. I think there's a lot of opportunities for commanders to get really creative about the way that they play this map, going for some cheeky strategies, maybe going for, you know, underwater, pop up on the other side, D-gun bases, sort of shenanigans, that sort of thing. I think there's a lot of room right there for some creativity that I'm excited to see. Onyx Cauldron, also another map in the map pool today, another classic 1v1 map. It's got a lot of metal on it, so it is cool to see. Oftentimes, these games tend to go the distance. One of my favorite plays that I've ever seen on this is Spiderbots taking advantage of that mountain terrain along the edge here and traversing it in order to get an upper hand against the enemy, firing rockets down on the enemy base. Always a satisfying moment. Next on the docket is Canis River. Yeah, this is a good one. This is Canis River. So one of the things that always happens in Canis River is a commander ends up eventually pushing forward one of these two sides, realizes, hey, I'm actually only a couple steps away from my enemy's production over here, walks across the river and D-guns it. And that is always awesome to see. Frustrating as all hell to be the player on the receiving end of that, but 100% going to be a fun time to watch the players try and figure out how to prevent that action from happening. LLT spams likely to occur. Rare that we see pro players reaching for those LLT spams. I feel like it's going to be one of the few options that we do get in order to do that. Tundra going to be another one of the maps that we, again, see a lot, but also I feel like I don't take a look at it all too often, so I'm a little unfamiliar with this map, just kind of the metas and the way the ins and outs of this map are played, but I can tell you what, there's a lot of run-by paths here as well, so this is another one that rewards high APM, it rewards really good map awareness and really good map control. I think any of those higher APM players are going to take huge advantage of a lot of the terrain that Tundra has to offer, all the big flat open areas, all the different little choke points and terrain paths and different opportunity paths, different things like that. I think Tundra is going to be a cool one to see a lot of different, unique, individual unit micro. And of course, to round things off, faster than light. It's almost a StarCraft map is how I would describe this. You sort of spawn on the high ground here. You can also spawn on the low ground, but you have to spawn with the mexes further apart, so it's a little bit less efficient. Usually you spawn on the high ground here and you claim these 3 mexes, then you have a natural expansion. Then to get your third base, you can either go southward or northward, or similar here for the other spawn. And then you have to try and fight across these 3 different areas. So you have the lowlands over here, the highlands here, and I guess this is kind of 3 individual areas all on its own on this northern side, but you have a highland area and then also a geothermal to contest on that southern side. It's really, really cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we are underway, and we're going to jump right in, and I think what we're going to do is take a look at a game between Pro Randy and Mr. Pooman. Let me hop into this game. Whoops, there we go. Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're excited. I certainly am. We'll jump on over to... Hello? Uh-oh. Bar, please. Hold on. Give me a second.
Battle started.
Give me oh, no. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, this is the worst. This is the worst kind of technical difficulty. Oh, don't do this to me, Bar, please. There we are. Oh, thank goodness. Phew! I was sweating. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our first match. It's going to be played on Canis River version 1.4. And spawning in the southern side as the red commander, as a Cortex commander, it's going to be none other than Pooman. Pooman going for his very juicy build, his very, very squishy, slippery build, going to be pumping out a couple of those good old-fashioned Cortex vehicles here. Eventually going to go into incisors. I believe it was X Factor that came up with this build. Somebody can probably correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, or in the chat. That's what you guys are called, you greedy goblins. You're called a chat. Hey, thanks for the T1 sub, by the way. Always awesome to see that. You're a hero and a saint, Mr. Two Pumps. Good to see you, mate. I know we've been talking back and forth recently. Good old Two Pumps. Me and Two Pumps working back and forth to make sure that this game has plenty of fresh content. Anyway, spawning on the northern side. Ooh, spawning is a blue Armada commander. Spawning up here in the northern corner. It's going to be none other than Pro Randy, and my goodness, what a surround. The Giga surround right here, as Pro Randy has got a million ticks on every angle. What on earth is this? Whoa. So, in total here, it looks like we've got 9 ticks completely surrounding the base right now. We're just completely encasing the red commander, just making sure that we've got complete coverage of every angle, and then, of course, looking to send those ticks in whenever there's an opportunity. Wow. This is top-notch bar. This really, really is top-notch pro-level bar. When you see the units being individually microed like this, to the point where you can have effectively multiple different armies all marching at the same time, this is ridiculous. Incisors coming out in mass right now from Pooman, looking to use those light tanks to counter the light scout here from the Armada commander. But of course, as soon as those ticks come back in, there they go, ready to do some more damage. Whoa. One just barely manages to kill the mechs, and the other just barely manages not to. Pooman defends against that one. Ooh, Incisor will be enough to clean up that other tick as well. Nice defense, all things well and considered here from Pooman. But it does mean that the blue commander is now off to an extremely greedy start. Look at this. We've already got up to 4 construction bots working right now. We've got 1 building mexes in the back line here as well. 1 did eventually go down to those pesky rascals in the back here. What an excellent start, though. Yeah, this is a huge economic benefit right now for the blue commander, who's going to be more than happy to just build those metal extractors, build E-converters, and set up a good old-fashioned Armada wind turbine farm. Getting some of that eco up and running is obviously going to be quite useful, but these incisors, they haven't really found that same value yet. Yeah, I want to say that they're still hunting down the remnants of the ticks that were sent across the map right here. They haven't necessarily gone and done enough damage to shut down the blue commander, because at the end of the day, 2 constructors expanding is going to be just ever so slightly slower than, well, 4. Now 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 constructors, 7 constructors. My goodness. What a greedster. Randy putting 9 ticks on the battlefield and saying, you know what, that's enough. Yeah, God forbid my opponent send across 4 light tanks and destroy the entire production here. To be fair, though, the Blue Commander did set up 2 LLTs, so I guess just having a lot of faith in those LLTs to defend here. Incisors cleaning this up nicely. The metal extractors stay online, and that's really important. They need to churn out metal for at least 25 seconds to pay themselves back, and then after that, it's all golden. You're going to be making a whole bunch of money. You're going to be rolling in metal, and you're going to start pumping out more and more of those tanks at a rate that bots really just can't keep up with. Now, nice energy control here. The Red Commander producing just enough energy to actually build units and also spend that metal. That's kind of right on the edge of where you want to stay, but as soon as you want to ramp up production to, say, medium tanks, which are basically double the energy cost here of your light tanks, suddenly you're going to need, well, double the energy production, double the metal production, and it's difficult to make that call when exactly you should go for that. But oftentimes, doubling your economy is a good indicator of when you're ready for that. Wow, we're doing walls, too. Okay, interesting. I like it. This is the kind of thing that when you are a pro-level player and you have the spare APM to do, it does help. For most Bronze League gamers like myself, this is not necessarily a good use of APM, because all of a sudden what you've got here is a bunch of wasted metal, basically. You've got 64 metal worth of walls, and how much is this really going to affect anything? Well, it might be just enough because of the shape of this here, with the incisors clashing right against it. They might be directed directly towards the static defense. Maybe it'll make the difference. I'm excited to see. Wow, we're going so heavy on the static defense here. Yeah, we're just going for mass beamer turret, and I love it. Beamer turrets are really, really popular. They're very strong, too. Yeah, the constructor's setting up those beamer turrets relatively quickly. This is an interesting playstyle. Pro Randy going for mass static defense here to defend the base, and then just going for the barest minimum of unit production here. The cheapest units possible, and as few of them as possible. Tech's obviously costing next to nothing. They're very, very cheap. They're very disposable. And these constructors setting up more and more laser towers. What an interesting way to play this here. I love it. Randy going into Centurion now. Looks like we're just going to go into Mass Centurion on the back of this here. I suppose I don't mind it. Centurion definitely well and away capable of dealing with those light tanks with 1,590 health versus the Incisors 820 or so. There we go. Now, obviously, the Centurion has nowhere near the speed of the Incisor, so that is one opportunity that you do have as in a vehicle player, a core vehicle player with those Incisors, is that, of course, if you can find a way around the Centurion, then they're not going to do much value for you. Randy setting up static defenses as he goes, too. Leaving these expansions protected by a bunch of LLTs, always cool to see. We've got solar panels on them as well, just to help stimulate that energy economy. Making sure that there's something like a consistent energy production in the backline right now. Randy's commander is cloaked over here. Don't believe it was spotted. Now it's the time for Pooman to show what he's got on the other side. Massive amounts of units over here. Loads and loads of incisors. But of course, these incisors cost 118 metal. The Centurion costs 270, so Centurion should do quite a bit better. They should fare quite nicely against these light tanks here. I guess we'll get a chance to see. There we go. Especially with the surround bonus, the Centurion are going to melt through the Incisor very thin HP pool. Wow, just mass Centurion. Okay. You know what? I don't even hate it. They're basically just a less mobile version of a tank. They're an Incisor on legs, essentially. They cost quite a bit more, though, of course. Well, we do spot this massive army over here. Beamer turrets are going to be wonderful for taking down, well, basically all of this, yeah. Those incisors are actually quite weak to the beamer turrets. Beamer turrets are very good at tearing these down. You can see most of them being shut down here. 3 of them do make it through, though, and that really is all it takes. Uh-oh. 3 incisor were let through the gates and now suddenly going to pop up behind enemy lines. The metal extractors are in trouble. Loads of metal available right there, as those beamer turrets did take down tons of these tanks, but now they're going to get the chance to pop the wind turbines, pop the metal extractors. This is a rough situation. Centurion now marching forward for the blue commander. Wow. Aggressive Centurion push. We're just going to march them across the map, I guess. I don't mind it. The constructors are in trouble here, too. These need to be microed back. Uh-oh. The red commander focused on controlling the armies over here. We have a big old run-by of incisors on the northern side, pushing forward right now, but shut down nicely by a bunch of the pawns. A couple of them make it through, though, and that really is all it takes. Meanwhile, these incisors in the back line, there really was no option to answer them. The Centurion are eventually going to make their way back that way. but it is going to take a good long while. A big old wind stall right now does mean that energy is scarce as well. These LLTs not going to be able to fire as frequently as they otherwise would. Incisors also costing a lot of energy, as well as the Centurion. So everybody hurting for energy as suddenly the wind power stalls and nobody has the energy to do anything about it. Incisor getting the jump on a Centurion on the southern side here. This one, apparently a merciful Centurion. Not going to go after the metal extractor. The kind Centurion. One Incisor manages to make it through. Ooh, even some self-D micro. Okay, cool. Pooman absolutely on top of it. Yeah. I was a little worried because we all know Pro Randy is a skilled player. Pooman is really the one up on the chopping block to prove themselves today. And it feels like they're doing a great job of it. Keeping the aggression high, going for a classic build, and going for one that's, well, I guess maybe classic is the wrong term for it. It's still relatively new, but it is quickly gaining popularity, and we've seen it in basically every 1v1 tournament since then. So, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna call it a classic build. It's ascended to classichood, but just much quicker than usual. Lasers firing away here as the Centurion group up. Centurions snowball really quickly, so it's cool to see that we have multiple of them coming out here at this point. The Blue Commander making heavy investments, and you know what? Because of all these constructors, we can rebuild that economy so quickly. It's a factor that I had overlooked here, but yeah, all these mexes are going to come up and online so quick because all these constructors are available. Means we can just rebuild the entire economy from scratch in just a couple of moments. Alright, air transition, Air Lab comes up. An Armada Air Lab is interesting because Armada Air sucks. The the T1 Armada Air is really, really difficult to find some good value with. Oh, well, speak of the value, Centurion, the slowest T1 Armada unit, waddling its way into the enemy backline, pop a whole bunch of wind turbines, a metal extractor, all sorts of stuff. I would like to see a self-D on these. I don't think there's any reason to give up these corpses to the Red Commander here. At the very least, maybe we'll bring down one of those medium tanks, but again, we're leaving that corpse to the Red Commander, so at the end of the day, this trade was mostly positive. Oh. Apparently bots can walk up that hill very nicely. Okay. One of those little things. One of those game sense things. Things that even I didn't know. Apparently doing a wonderful thing. Yeah. Cool. Very cool. It looks like the Centurion had marched across. While the one Centurion is being cleaned up in the backline here, there's a whole bunch more that are pushing forward right now. Centurion able to just broad-face tank the laser towers here. They don't have to worry about it. And suddenly there's a whole load of gunships coming up in the backline. Okay, so it's going to be gunships. I was curious if we were going to go for strato bombers or if we were just going to go for good old-fashioned T1 gunships. I thought the other option might be a bunch of transports, right? Just transport dropping a whole bunch of Centurion onto the enemy's base, but it looks like that's not going to be the case here. Centurion just using their light lasers to flash down these tanks, one blast at a time. It's like, you know, it's like flicking a tank to death. GG is called as Pooman does throw in the towel right here, resigns in the Red Commander, goes up in smoke to the overwhelming superiority of the Armada Centurion. What a funky way of playing this game, but Randy's showing that there's always a way to make a unique strategy work. The beamer turrets doing so much work today. It was interesting to see that, and the mass Centurion ended up working out really nicely there as well. I guess once you have the economy to start producing those in mass, you can start to cover so much of the map with them that it really becomes a matter of controlling lines rather than necessarily controlling individual units. Very cool to see. Very, very cool to see. Are these, I believe, oh, okay, and we're hopping right into it. I believe these are a best of 3, if I'm not mistaken. I can double check that really quickly here. I might as well. Might as well double check it. Let me go to the announcements. Should be right here. Somewhere around here. I've got a million pages pulled up, so one of them will definitely tell me some information about it. Surely. Okay, well, I'm gonna assume it's a best of 3 because we are headed into game 2 right now. Pro Randy with a point on the board. Pooman, the defender in place, trying to keep it nice and steady. You want to see more tick play? Alt F4 and Contra are probably the 2 best players to look at, and I agree. Alt F4 is going to be really fun to watch. I'm almost saving that game. I'm like saving to savor that game. Pro Randy, apparently this time opting to go for Cortex. And I wonder why. I wonder what the decision making is here for Randy to go for Cortex as opposed to going for Armada. Apparently favoring Cortex in this map, maybe favoring the way that the metal spread is set up in the early game here. One thing that it means is that we're going to be seeing some good old-fashioned Cortex on Cortex action. Pooman spawning on the northern side. Spawning is our red leader. Going to be going into a double max wind turbine start. Nothing too crazy, nothing too special. Pooman going to go ahead and prioritize the metal over the energy. It's not that bad whatsoever. Of course, wind energy can go up to 29 on Onyx Cauldron, which is gigantonormous. It's a huge a huge energy economy. You can see Pooman going into already starting the lab on just one wind turbine. A little bit greedy, but there you go. I mean, if the wind speed's going to be 22, you actually don't even need... You need literally 2 wind turbines. It's ridiculous. Oh, Randy mixing it up. Okay. So this is a very cheeky build. Randy going into a 1-mex air lab right now. So going to be producing a bomber. It looks like a shuriken as well. The shuriken is for base defense. The bomber is for harassment, obviously. And then the constructor is meant to fly around and grab the metal extractors. It's a weird kind of build because you leave yourself extremely susceptible to, say, for instance, 5 grunts coming across the map. But we've seen it time and time again actually work out really nicely here. It looks like we're going to really prioritize that wind energy. I don't mind it, especially when wind is up as high as 29 is massive. The wind risk on this map is 3.2, so it's basically never going to be below the threshold for inefficiency, which for Armada is 5 and for Cortex is 6. Bomber is up in the air, the Finch is coming out next, and it looks like, ah man, we are slowly going to produce all these. I'm a little bit surprised that 1 mex economy can produce all this quick enough here. Yeah, I think going for that 2nd mex before prioritizing the shuriken would probably have been ever so slightly better, because of course getting the mex up means the shuriken is going to build ever so slightly faster. Randy seems to know what he's doing, though. Definitely has practiced this build at least a couple times, maybe practicing against AI or something here, but poor Pooman didn't see this coming. Sees the Finch and all of a sudden has to realize there's a bomber directly behind it. Wind turbines go up and smoke the entire air economy, entire wind economy rather, of Pooman is completely thrown out of the window right here. Bomber completely uncontested. Now gonna fly away and be saved for a rainy day. We're gonna use this, I guess we're gonna use this for defense at this point. I'm not entirely sure. Randy continuing to try and set up whatever defense is possible. We do have the shuriken patrolling around right here, and we're going to get the construction aircraft out and about as well. Bomber's still harassing the backline. We're going to try and pop down the metal extractor. Very nicely done, of course. Ruining that economy and setting the poor Pooman back quite a little ways. Taking out those wind turbines is really all that was needed, though. Popping those wind turbines means that suddenly the energy economy is thrown way out of whack. As you can see, energy production about 205 for the blue commander, nearly 157. So a 30-ish% advantage for Pro Randy over Pooman. Metal production about neck and neck, though. Neither commander really affording themselves the opportunity to expand outwards here. We do have the air constructor going to start setting up some some defenses, I guess you could call it. Some like forward defenses, some offensive defenses. Using the bomber for defense. Using the shuriken to paralyze things, and then using the bomber to bomb them is pretty S tier if you ask me. Yeah, there we go. Shuriken paralyzing these grunts and the bomber coming out to meet them. What a funky strategy. Okay, well, if I were Pooman in this situation, I think what I'd do is go ahead and go for a really greedy start. Going for a whole bunch of constructors and just expanding about as greedily as possible, because if you know your opponent is up in the air, there's not really anything to hold them back from expanding quicker than you, so you may as well go for as quick an expansion as you can. Whole bunch of those construction bots out. We have a res bot out here as well. It should definitely be out there reclaiming, I think is the idea here. Pooman setting that constructor to rebuild here. Trying to get back into this game. You can see definitely Pooman's a little bit shaken by this, right? Not necessarily super familiar with how to properly counter this. Having a rough time figuring out exactly the right way that we want to settle this up to continue fighting this game here. The answer, I think, is probably to be aggressive. We do have the anti-air bot here meant to shut down any shuriken that should be so bold. Yeah, there we go. The aforementioned shuriken shot out of the sky right here and keeping this escort of grunts nice and safe against any of those early paralytic blade wings. Very cool to see. Unfortunately, wind turbines cap at 25 speed. Is that true? There's no way that's true, right? Surely they just go up to the highest wind speed. Hold on. We'll get a chance to see here in just a second. Oh, they totally do. Oh, weird. Oh, well, that's really strange. Okay, that means this is completely incorrect. Oh, that's very odd. That's really, really odd, yeah. Okay, so apparently wind turbines capping out at 25 energy production, apparently not able to go any faster than that. For whatever reason, no matter how high the wind speed is, you'll never go higher than 25. It just means that all these wind turbines are going to be really, really efficient, but they're never going to get any more efficient, right? Not the end of the world, of course, but definitely means you have to be a little bit careful about how you proceed about that sort of thing. You have to be aware of that. I think anybody's going to be happy to build 25 wind speed wind turbines. The units have arrived. Randy stepped out to the front to meet them. It's a D-gun. But a beautiful D-gun from Randy. Knocks out not only the anti-air bot, but every single one of the grunts that was around it. Oh no. Pooman looked back at that unit composition and just thought, wait, where'd it go? I thought I had units here. My goodness. What a brutal D-gun right there from Pro Randy. That's the kind of thing that pro players can do consistently. Just always with exactly the right comp at exactly the right time, using the right units and exactly the right amount of force. And sometimes it's just sending the D-gun along exactly the right trajectory that you take out the entire enemy composition. What a beautiful D-gun, man. Top-notch bar is something else. Nice, a sub from the Prime as well. Steal from the Bezos and give to the bar. That's what I always say. Looks like we've got these air cons just building mexes all over the place. So again, weird because this is so harassable, right? 2 or 3 grunts is going to be all it takes to pop all this. Anti-air is thick here. Yeah. Anti-air bots as well as the static anti-air defense is going to be more than enough to shut down that bomber right there. Means no more harassment over on this side. Bombers, however, can take advantage of this mountain pass over here to come into the back of the base. Wouldn't mind seeing it, of course. Sending those bombers into the back to pop that energy production. It's going to be very useful. A single exploiter has come up on the northern side right here. This air constructor worked very hard to set it up and is now going to start building other metal extractors over on this side here as well. Unguarded metal extractors, and here we go. This is what I've been waiting for. Suddenly, in the backline are just a whole bunch of grunts. There's no reason these couldn't have been across the map a little bit sooner. I mean, the shuriken was preventing it, but aside from that, oh no. And we don't really want to fight that LLT. It's got the build power to repair it. Yeah. An unfortunately losing battle as the build power is enough to repair this LLT and save it from the grunts. I think popping the wind turbines would have been much better. Stalling out the energy economy here for the blue commander. You can see we're reclaiming the crystals here to provide as much energy as possible back to the foundations of this economy. Trying to save everything as best we can. Oh no. Units being thrown away right here on the front line. Yeah. You can see it's slowly slipping out of Pooman's hands. Just losing units right now. Not individually the end of the world, right? Losing a unit here, losing a unit there. It's not the end of the world, but that does start to add up very quickly, and it's not the kind of thing you can afford when you're going up against pro-level players like this. Air constructors continuing to set up the metal extractors over here. A gigantic advantage right now for Pro Randy. He's got presence out on the map because of those air cons. They were more than sufficient to get out there and produce enough outward force via those metal extractors that now we pivoted harshly into vehicles. We're going to go for a good old-fashioned incisor spam. Pumping out loads of incisors every single second. There we go. Man, what is that? Like 10 seconds per incisor or something like that? Maybe less? Yeah, closer to 6 or 7. Very, very quick incisors indeed. Looks like we're going for E-converters here as well. This is a bit interesting. I guess it makes sense. If you're going to go for those very efficient wind turbines, those E-converters are nice for when you do have an overflow. Incisors are coming across the map, though, and here's the thing. Anti-air was the name of the game right now for the Red Commander. Is he going to be prepared for a full-blown counterattack using good old-fashioned light tanks? Light laser tanks, in fact, to be extremely specific. There we go. Laser tanks versus grunts. Here's how the matchup swings out, and it looks like the incisors will take a wholehearted victory, blasting down every single one of those grunts with 0 casualties. More incisors across the way, gonna pop some of these constructors that were sent out exploratorily. There we go, that's the word. Brightworks does words. Brought to you live. Missile trucks. I mean, here's the thing about missile trucks. They're great siege weapons, not so great at skirmishing. The grunts are gonna have to make up for a lot of the firepower here. And the speed as well. And it looks like they will. A nice deflection right there at the very least. A bunch of these resbots are in trouble though. And incisors too busy fighting for their lives. I think those resbots were a little bit sus. They could have been targeted down right there, but luckily for the Red Commander, it wasn't the case. And gonna try and snipe the mechs here. Save some face and try and snipe the mechs, but all things considered, not really an excellent fight right there. Okay. It's the kind of thing we need. This is a lot better. The incisor, the lone incisor tearing down all of these metal extractors. We went for, again, air static defense, but no land static defense. Means that Pooman is going to be without for a little while here, as suddenly all the metal that he had fought very hard to build is now going to be put into, well, the dirt. I guess the missile trucks make sense. The missile trucks are a relic of a... They're the relic of a game where shurikens were a factor. Nowadays, they could be a factor, but they aren't very much so right now. The shuriken production very low right now. I'm actually surprised to see that Randy went ahead and kept the lab up and running. We're going for geothermals here as well. My goodness. Total metal production, you can see that Randy is up by about 12k. It's what having those metal extractors on the map for so long has afforded him. Suddenly there's just mexes everywhere, and it means that Randy can afford to be a little bit wasteful. Things like keeping solar panels around, things like keeping those laboratories around, like keeping the extra laboratory for the shuriken in case you needed them. Self-D micro. Ooh, it was very close. So difficult to judge that because, of course, those LLTs are so brittle, but very close right there from Randy. If there's a commander that can do it, I think it's going to be one of the pro players like Randy. Nice counterattack right here from the red commander, sending a small coterie of forces forward. Managing to find an exposed nerve. Yeah, Randy going to have to defend this with a lot of incisors. Incisors pulled back from the fronts as well, and Pooman is doing a great job. We've got the Resbots to resurrect a lot of this, which is cool to see too. Reinforcing those front lines with the enemy's units is always going to be quite efficient. Oh, this is not good though. Incisors did find the missile trucks. I think these missile trucks were meant to keep all these tanks secure from any sort of air harassment. They've ended up essentially just being metal on the other side of the pond. Wicked battle back and forth between these two commanders. It's mass incisor. We do have a medium tank. The lone medium tank that was produced. I can't help but wonder if that was a misclick or something. Randy continuing to expand on the map, by the way. When the bomber is produced, the geothermal is up and running. More incisor battles. You know what? With the Resbots though, every incisor you lose suddenly just becomes a incisor that the enemy is using against you here. Oh, this is a cool move from Pooman. This is like fundamentals of bar against you know, really technical bar. I'll tell you what's the most fundamental aspect of bar though. It's killing your enemy's eco. Punching your enemy in their wallet is always going to do more damage than punching them in the army, and it looks like Pooman will not throw. That's a little harsh. Pooman will lose the second game, and it's going to be Randy that takes this series 2-0. Sorry, Pooman. Randy stays on top. There's a reason why he's called Pro Randy. There's a reason why his name is feared throughout the galaxy. You fought a good fight, and you made it a long time, too. But in the end, it's going to be Randy that manages to sweep away the competition before him. Very nicely done. Oh, what are the channel points for this called? Are they called Barbucks? What are the channel emotes called? That's so cool. I always forget about those. Oh, man. We got to start up some votes, too. Oh, that 3-minute delay is going to be so... yeah, I guess we can't do it with the 3-minute delay, can we? What a bummer. What a bummer. Oh, well. Nicely done right there from Pro Randy and Pooman. Nice hard-fought battle right there. Very cool to see. Let's go ahead and take a look and see if there's any other games that we can jump on into. Looks like Alt F4 and User 001 are going to be going against each other on Faster Than Light. Why don't we just pop in and take a little look-see? Why don't we just take a little look-see? Game's been going on for 6 minutes, so we're heading towards the end of that T1 era, is my guess. We're getting past the harassment stage and moving into mass unit fabrication. We're just spamming out units, as many and as fast as we can. User 001 going to be playing as Armada, playing with some vehicles, which is interesting on this map. Alt 4 Ubivator going to be going for Armada bots. Building a hefty backline too. Wow, we've gone into massive energy production. We don't even have E-converters. Why are we producing so much energy? I'm struggling here to put this together. For some reason, we've gone into mass energy production. I guess we're just trying to get the... yeah, okay. I think I see the vision here. Ubivator just wants to secure the energy production before doing anything else, so he's taking the lull in combat to micro his way up to as many advanced solar panels as possible. Putting the regular solar panels into the dirt, just using them to build more build power. Yeah, and I guess continuing to just expand the energy infrastructure. Since this is the case, I'm surprised to see that we're not going for Like, for instance, oh, a T2 laboratory. Oh, interesting. Okay. See, in my heart of hearts, I was thinking we were going to go for an E-storage and then maybe some sort of air shenanigans. Air forces are usually very, very energy expensive as well. So I thought maybe that's where the direction of this game was headed. This does not feel like enough eco to go for T2. I guess it is, though, with all these T1 solar panels, too. That's the thing. These advanced solar panels are so efficient that you can afford to just build a couple of them, and it'll build you enough of an economy. We've got the, 775 metal worth of T1 solar panels that if we manage to reclaim over here, it's going to take a minute while we reclaim those, but if we manage to reclaim all those, it's not going to be that bad whatsoever. I'm a little surprised to see we didn't have any transport shenanigans either. Nobody transporting up to this high ground here to try and claim all these metal extractors. Oftentimes very useful to go for that, but not necessarily worth fighting over. If you have to battle, you can easily lose way too much metal fighting over this, is what I'm trying to say. Mine layers all over the place here. Love to see it. There we go. Tick sacrificing its life to open up the midsection there. Not sure if we realized that there were mines there and just happened to go clear them out, or if it was completely by accident, but one way or another. Nicely done by the blue commander, who is almost done with that T2 laboratory. My goodness. Build power is within range to deconstruct some of these solar panels over here. It's also within range to assist with that laboratory. Is very cool. That's some very economic build power placement right there from the blue commander, and there we go. We've made our way up to a T2 constructor. My goodness, we're 8 minutes into the game on a 1v1, and the blue commander has gotten themselves into T2. So the question remains, what are you going to use this T2 for? Obviously, the T2 constructor's most useful case is just building these T2 metal extractors, which produce 4 times the metal of the regular one, so that's going to be a whopping 8 metal per second right here. Effectively, what Alt 4 is banking on right now is basically being able to take advantage of the opponent not pushing super, super aggressively. If we were just stupid aggressive with the units right now, I think we'd easily overwhelm the base, but we're going to have enough production, and we're going to have enough time to just go ahead and go up to these T2. It's cheeky, and it's cheesy, and all together, it's a little bit greedy. Wind turbine. What on earth? Even the pros, not immune to slipping into using those defaults, right? So this is really complicated, but basically the blue commander has front-loaded their energy economy so that later into the game they don't have to scale. The red commander is now upgrading their economy and is doing so gradually, right? So we've got all these regular solar panels, and we've got the advanced solar panels coming up, and we've got the metal to produce it all. What it means is that the red commander here, user 001, could more than likely spend all this metal on a T2 lab as soon as they deconstruct all these solar panels. But the advantage here, the fine line that's drawn between the red and blue player is that there's no build power, right? So the blue commander has got all the build power in the world to build all this. There's the E-storage. That's what I was looking for. Once you have the E-storage, you can start E-converters as well. In the meantime, though, it's really not much at all. There's a hound coming out on the lab. Definitely has to be a scary moment there for the red commander, who realizes, wait a second, you're already on T2? Uh-oh. Definitely a very scary moment here. Then again, it also means that you have all the time in the world, right? You see T2 on the other side of the map and you're thinking, okay, well, they're clearly going for a late game. Clearly going for a T2 game. Ah, interesting. Gonna go for a bomber. Or at the very least an air lab here. An Armada air lab. More and more of these advanced solar panels coming up as more of these advanced metal extractors come up. 8.6 metal per metal extractor means that this cluster of 3 metal extractors produces as much metal as this high ground, this low ground, and this low ground, all combined. And it produces more than that. It gives you a huge advantage, it really does. Hound's now firing away into the distance as well. Not very accurately, but they are firing away into the distance, nonetheless. It's good to see. Obviously, utilizing those Hound's superior range is going to be really, really effective. Oh, transport's coming out. Interesting. We're going for light transports, which can only mean that we're going to be going for unit transports here. We also, of course, have the Osprey, the heavy transport. The Osprey inbound. That's what I feel like Bard needs. A little bit of voice lines for all the units. You like click on a unit and it says a little voice line. Oh, okay. User 001, I think you're about to impress me. From what I can tell, you're about to impress me with the move of all time. Transport's coming in, and it looks like they're going to pick up a bunch of blitz tanks. And my guess is that we're going to send them all the way around this northern side into the backline here and just try and take out the backline economy. If so, that's hilarious and awesome. Medium mines right here, going to be sufficient to take out these hounds, so I don't think they've been seen right now by the blue commander. Yeah, this is a unique opportunity. Meanwhile, mass units pushing forward the midsection. Welders come out. We do have a little bit of anti-air as well. Welder's going to be great for dealing with these medium tanks, the Janices, all the blitzes, all that sort of stuff. As you can see, blasting those down with brutal efficiency. But here we go. Transports have deployed the blitzes. Blitzes away! Oh no. What a killer move. What a cheeky move right here from user 001, dropping a whole bunch of these blitz tanks in the back line. We're not killing the mexes here. There we go. Okay, we're going to peel a couple of them off to kill the metal extractors and the constructors and whatnot. Cool to see, and these blitzes have now arrived in the back line. We've got welders headed over in this direction, but my goodness, these are going to be able to pop so many of these solar panels. Beamer turrets coming up as well, and the build power here is scrambling to try and clean all this up. Meanwhile, these advanced mexes are in so much trouble. Oh no. Oh wait, somehow the mexes up here didn't get cleaned up. Oof. That's definitely a blunder. Oh no. So what could have been a killer move ended up not being a very killer move because the blitzes forgot to kill anything. It's one of those reasons why in an RTS game you've always got to go for the guaranteed damage, not necessarily the damage that you want, right? Because here we go, the blitz is eventually eaten up by these constructors, not actually going to be able to do too much damage. All right, so all those blitzes in the backline completely unseen by the blue commander. All said and done, they killed a single metal extractor. Yeah, that's pretty tragic. That's actually extremely tragic. Yeah, that's that was meant to be the game-winning play right there, but unfortunately, it ended up being more like an annoying winning play. Banshee's coming across the map now, and it does look like we're looking for something a little bit desperate is how I want to call it. The gunships are looking for a commander, is what I want to say. Archangel here, unable to even kill the T1 light Banshees, the T1 light gunships. There you go, blasting down that worst of flak units. Man. Bot anti-air is terrible, my goodness. Alt F4 Ubivator doesn't have the E. What a snipe, I can't believe it. The Banshees from user 001 snipe the blue commander and steal the victory in a game on Faster Than Light. GG is called as user 001 snipes it out from under the T2 commander, Alt F4 Ubivator. He was hoping for a long game, and he got blasted to death for it instead. What a crazy way to snipe that game. I love the blitz drops in the backline. They didn't work out as well as I hoped they would, but they definitely were cheeky to see. And I love a commander that's taking advantage of different funny little tools like that. That's really cool to see. Phew. Action-packed game. I am excited to see some more of these games from these two commanders. User 001 impressing me. Alt F4, a commander that I was well aware of going into this, was going to be a talented commander, but User 001 showing some good stuff. Some really, really good stuff. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, why don't we hop on over to the leaderboards here. We'll take a look at the leaderboard standings and see exactly what we are up to so far today. Let me see if any of this has actually changed. We'll refresh the page. There we go. Okay, looks like actually standings haven't been cast yet. Are these all... Are we doing best of fives or something? No, I think it's just best of threes. Might just not have reported their scores quite yet. Not the end of the world. Let's just go ahead and go back here. Double checking my lists, seeing what's up, seeing how's it goes. And it looks like we do have one more game in the first round being played. We'll hop right into it. This game is going to be Nebuchadnezzar versus Domino. They're playing on Theta Crystals. Let me reconnect to this match and I'll switch you guys on over. We'll pop back over here. Ta-da! My transitions need a little work there, eh? Looks like they're not popping in properly here. They're sort of like fading in, but not fading... Or fading out, but not fading in. They just sort of snap together. I'll do my best to explain what's going on here, but they're both going to be playing as core bots. Looks like both of them going to be pushing very aggressively. We do have bombers out in the air already for Domino. Looks like we have a whole bunch of... Oh, sorry, no, we're Armada versus Core right now, so okay. We have some Stormbringer bombers dropping their bombs on top of these units right here. I suppose I don't mind it. I feel like, I guess Stormbringers make a lot more sense against units than against static structures because they don't do as much single target damage, but against a big cluster of units, for instance, it really feels like they make a lot of sense. Big fighter battle right here as the gunships slowly march forward. The Grunt's going to be shot to death right here by the gunships. Okay. I don't mind it, I suppose. Relatively efficient fight as these gunships can hover out in the middle of the air, but look at those Grunts blasting them down, flashing them down with their laser beams. It's like that old question of, like, what would happen if 1,000 people all shined a laser pointer at an airplane at the same time? Would it be enough to, like, overheat the airplane? Cortex figured it out. Cortex figured it out. You simply strap enough laser pointers on top of your units, they'll be able to blast down anything. Yeah. One of the issues with going into air like this is that you immediately force out anti-air. And that's seems like less of an issue than it is. Like, that's the obvious reaction that you're going to get. But a lot of times it's underestimated exactly how important that anti-air reaction is going to be. It's sort of like a virus reaction or whatever, right? It's like when your body produces antibodies to counter a virus. Suddenly you're all completely prepared to shut down anti-air. Means that in the future, going for bombing runs or anything like that is going to be really, really difficult. Surprised to see that we're not expanding any further on the southward here. I guess both commanders just saying, no, that's no man's land. Nobody needs to really worry about contesting that. The entire fight just going to be focused entirely around this northern side right here. Looks like Domino and Neba have both gone ahead and decided to just duke it out on the high grounds right here. Resbots finally get to work eating up all these corpses for the red commander. That's going to be Nebuchadnezzar. Got a little flag going on too. Lovely stuff. We've got to try and contain control over this hillside. The rough thing is that there's only 2.4 metal per second to be had from controlling this hillside. So no matter how hard you're fighting for this, it's really hard to be efficient enough that it's worth fighting over this hill. Pushing forward and killing this backline, always worth it. Sitting up on top of this hill, not going to be so important here. Pardon me as I take a sip of my ice-cold lemonade. Nebuchadnezzar 2. The second. I also know it's called Nebuchadnezzar, but... Neba has personally reached out to me and told me that he thinks it's funny that I refer to him as Nebuchadnezzar, so... Allow me, if you will. My treats. My little treat. Resbots, what are we up to? There we go, okay. Neba, complaining to himself in chat. WTF is wrong with me. Host of Fight Nights can't even play 1v1, shaking my head. I love it. LLT's here for the defense, not going to be nearly enough to stop the swarm of grunts headed northward here. Gonna pop the constructor and also the metal extractors. There they are. A little bit lofty in the control here. A couple of splits. Peeling these armies apart and breaking them down into their constituents to make sure that you're doing the damage over time that you need to. Think it might help out a lot. Grunts that have been resurrected here also a little bit scary to see, right? Knowing that your opponent is resurrecting your forces. Here's the medium tanks, though. Looks like the blue and the red commanders had exactly the same idea. Nebuchadnezzar going ahead and de-gunning down some of the medium tanks right here, but realizing suddenly that his laboratory that he built to build these medium tanks is in a whole bunch of trouble. What a hilarious turn of fates right there for the red commander. Suddenly in a whole bunch of trouble from the very unit that he intended to build. D-Gun's connecting with a lot of these tanks, but not finding their mark this time. Grunts on the northern side stalled out ever so slightly. Still looking for that value. Neb exploited nearly every mech. You're so right. He sure did. That's a very costly expansion pattern. But of course it also means, whoa, we're up to T2. Just like that, all of a sudden we're up to T2. I didn't even realize, but yeah, the red commander has gone ahead and gone all the way up to T2. Meanwhile, the Blue Commander building a massive air force right now. My goodness, what are these fighters for? We have so much metal and hold on, what's the total right now? Total metal is 2,336 metal worth of fighters right now to protect a couple of gunships. I guess the idea here is that the fighters are going to keep safe from any air fighters that come up, but really, I don't know if that's so necessary. I don't know if that's really necessary at all. Yeah, Neba forced to dive underwater right here. Firing that underwater laser beam as the grunts tear apart the base. Yeah, I think we're gonna need those gunships back home for defense. T2 is spotted right here as the first fiend interacts with the gunships over on the other side. Gunship in the air right now for the Blue Commander, gonna try and whittle down as many of these grunts as possible. You know what? Manages to clean them up. Nicely done right there. Yeah. Anti-air towers have shot down most of the gunships here as well. Oh, Domino going in for the kill. Domino going in for the kill. He knows Neba's over here. He's gonna go ahead and move in for the laser beam. Oh, that is too funny. That is too funny. Neba's been trapped. Suddenly he doesn't have a way out, and boom goes the Red Commander. Domino sniping the victory by killing the Red Commander, hiding in the pond with the commander of his own. What a hilarious move right there from the Blue Commander, managing to win this game. Nebuchadnezzar going for the destroying enemy resource production, destroying enemy units, and efficient use of resources. But it'll be Domino who puts a point on the board. What a hilarious back and forth match. Yeah, and you can see that T2 advantage was slowly pulling Neba forward right here. He was building his way out of it. But suddenly, at the end of the day, the Commander is really all it takes to win the game. What a hilarious end to that game as well. 2 Commander snipes, back to back. I have a feeling these pro players are not willing to play nice. They're more than happy to use every dirty trick that they can come up with, every sly trick that they have in their books. They're more than useful to use. I'll say it. I'll be the first to admit it. Kirkland lemonade, probably some of the best lemonade ever. It's best of 2s being played. Oh, my moderator has just let me know. It's going to be best of 2s today, which is a little bit interesting because obviously best of 2s have the opportunity to end in a tie, which is a little bit weird. However, this is actually a Swiss tournament, so what it means is that you'll play a game every single round. And what that means is that despite this being a best of 2 series, there will eventually be a winner. As I understand it, anyways. Good odds I don't. That's, you know, that's how that goes. But here we are. Current standings as their input right now. It looks like we had one match that had a tie. Ubavator and User 001. We caught the back end of that. We caught the second game here, but it looks like Alt F4 managed to take the first match in that series. Domino winning 2-0 against Neba. Randy winning 2-0 against Pooman. We did check that one out. And Modulo winning 2-0 against Korkaball. Now, I think it's time that we take a look at, well, really what I want to see is Alt F4 in another game. And this time, apparently going to be playing against Neba, which is going to be awesome to see. We've also got... Oh, wow, these are some good lineups. We got Randy versus Domino is going to be very good as well. The two total winners versus the two... I guess Korkaball got put into... Where did Korkaball go? Did he get subbed out for Roy Jaleel? Wait, where are these extra players coming from? What's going on here? Something strange is up with this bracket. I'm not sure exactly what is going on. Did they get, like, passed to the first round? Is that what happened? I'm not entirely sure. Well, anyway, should be some good matches coming up. I'll go ahead and try and find them real quick. Yeah, hop into multiplayer, hop into here, hop into there, blah, blah, blah. And it looks like we are going to be seeing... There we go. Yeah, Domino definitely expecting heavy air in that last game. I'm really surprised. I thought that was going to be a... I thought that was definitely going to be a big bombing run or something like that. I didn't expect the Commander snipe waddling his way underwater right there. Oh, I gotta stretch. Yeah. Man, that was good. That was some good bar. This is why I love watching the pros play. They always come up with fun strategies. Funky little strategies that are cool to see. Bar Fight Night servers are coming up and running right now, so I'm just waiting to see which one we can join. Looks like Nebuchadnezzar and Alt F4 are going to be starting off their game. They're both calling for a break here. Short break, short timeout. I just read 300 mouse clicks a minute to build wins. Oh yeah, we'll check out the APMs here. Alt F4 with a famously high APM. Should be really, really cool. We will definitely check out the APMs. Thank you for reminding me, because that's going to be hilarious. Let me see how this is looking. Okay, yeah. Love the way this tournament bracket is working out right here. Very cool indeed to see. So Alt F4 and User 001 are going to be the two on the edge, right? The two contestants that have a lot to win here. So Alt F4 is definitely fighting hard for this. Needs to win this match 2-0 if he wants to stay in a chance for maintaining the lead here. Otherwise, competing against the players that have taken their series 2-0 means, of course, that it's going to be a pretty rough one for anybody who's going up against one of those 2-0 heroes. It's going to be pretty cool. Oh, they're doing their bans right now, in case anybody's curious of the way that works. I did have it pulled up right here on the side, because I don't really know how that works. I'm pretty bad at... I'm pretty bad at that stuff. Okay, so apparently you ban 2, and then you ban 2 more, and then you pick 2. Looks like our first game today, or, well, our first game in this series between Alt F4 and Nebuchadnezzar is going to be on Tundra. And let me go ahead and switch us on over. We'll pop on over to here. Hey, there we go. The transition worked that time. Weird. Very cool. Tundra and Theta Crystals are 2 maps for now, and it looks like these 2 commanders are ripping and roaring, ready to go. And we're going to jump right into this. We will jump right into this, ladies and gentlemen. Take another sip of my iced cold lemonade. I'm actually... Here's a little inside peek behind the life of a commentator, caster, live streamer extraordinaire. I actually just brought the whole jug of lemonade with me. I'm gonna give you a little ASMR here. Everybody ready? Listen to this. I'm gonna give you some ASMR. There you go. You picked that up? I hope you picked that up. I have no idea. That's me pouring probably about a 1/5 of a jug of Kirkland Signature Organic Lemonade into my cup full of ice. Getting ready to enjoy a top-notch game of Beyond All Reason. Ladies and gentlemen, Nebuchadnezzar, spawning in the southern corner is the blue Cortex Commander, ripping and roaring and ready to take vengeance on the red commander spawning across from him here. Gonna be showing off what he's got as the founder of Bar Fight Nights, defending the very sport that he loves. It's one of those, like, coaches, like the coach steps out on the field, right, and then they're like a secret superhero all of a sudden. It's kind of how I feel whenever I see Nebuchadnezzar playing in these tournaments. Spawning on the other side, of course, is going to be none other than Alt F4 Ubervader, an Armada commander. A commander that I deeply appreciate for playing Armada. Armada has a special place in my heart, as when I was learning to play Beyond All Reason, everybody told me, oh, you should learn Cortex. Cortex is easier. Cortex is easier. And I'm just not the kind of person that likes easier. I always like the factions that are complicated and really difficult to play, but you get rewarded with, like, high satisfaction from pulling off cool moves and that sort of thing. So I learned Armada and I became loyal almost immediately. And now every time I see an Armada commander, I get all giddy and happy inside as I get to watch these adorable little ticks sprint across the battlefield right here. There they go. Yippee! These adorable little, what do these look like? I guess they're kind of like a mouse. Maybe like a... This is going to be really weird, but I'm going to say they almost remind me of a penguin. I don't know, something about the head of this unit kind of reminds me of like a penguin, but also they're like a dog. They're like the way that they gallop, like they kind of, you know, they run like a dog does. I don't know, they're sort of a weird one. They also look insectoid too, so they do also just kind of look like a tick. Yeah, I don't really know. Does it really matter all too much? Not entirely sure. Not really entirely sure. Anyway. Whoops, that's the wrong setting. There we go. Nice defense so far. Neba doing a great job of keeping these grunts at home. Knows he's playing against an Armada commander, he has to. So keeping a couple of these grunts at home. In fact, keeping all the grunts at home, knowing that he's going to have to use them to defend against the tick swarm, the early tick swarm. That's a very nice, you know, a future-sighted move right there. Keeping the grunts home so that you know that you're not going to take any damage means, of course, that you can scale your economy with way less trouble because you're going to have the units to actually properly reinforce it. Sending some units over to the side preemptively here might not be a bad idea. We have the constructor ready to go build these metal extractors, and as well, we're going to go for some exploiters here. I don't mind it, of course. Going for those exploiters means that you're going to have a lot of... You're going to have a lot of metal debt early on. Ooh, Grunt manages to find its way into the backline. Nice aggression right here. Neba leading with the aggression for now. Going to pop 2 of those metal extractors, shutting off a lot of the production for Alt F4, who is, over here for some reason. Well, there we go. Grunt in the backline manages to pop a wind turbine. Are we going to do anything else with it? Doesn't look like it as the pawns run forward and blast it to smithereens. Pawn versus Grunt. The pawn takes the win, but just barely. They're quite a bit more expensive, though. They're about, well, let's just see, 48 metal versus 36 metal, so like, what, 20% more expensive, something like that? Thanks, now I have to pee. So you just got to the ASMR part. Wonderful, I'm glad you guys could hear it. I'm glad I picked it up. Good stuff. You know I like to keep you on your toes. Keep my viewers guessing. I wonder if there's room in this build for hovercraft. There's certainly room for amphibious craft. So you can imagine 2 amphibious tanks. You build them out of a laboratory here, send them over here, send them all the way up to this side and around and into the enemy backline. Excuse me. It's easy to imagine how that could be useful, but at the same time, it sort of feels like a massive investment for a strategy that really, at the end of the day, is only going to pay off if your opponent isn't paying very close attention. And that's not really a safe thing to gamble on when you're playing in these higher level leagues. It really just isn't. You're not really going to be able to guarantee that your opponent isn't going to be paying attention hardly at any point. There's not really a reason why they shouldn't be. But here we go. We can take a look at, where is it? There, wait, is it over here? Yeah, there it is. You can see Nebuchadnezzar holding a sturdy APM of 34 with Uba clocking in at 45. Now, for anybody who's familiar with APM, it's always important to acknowledge that APM is not necessarily a direct determinant of how good a player is. You know, big old air quotes, good a player is. Really what APM is more a measure of how well they can multitask. And what that indicates to me is that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 armies on the map at any given time, and they're all being microed properly. And it looks like, more or less, Alt F4 is doing a great job of keeping these units constantly moving and constantly doing damage. Like, we got a little bit of aggression over here. Looks like we're going to try and kill that construction bot, and we will get the kill here, which is always nicely done. And then giving up those pawns in order to trade for that. We snipe the radar, another pawn moving in right here. It's just, it's fast. It's very, very fast. Meanwhile, this is 30 APM, and you can see the difference right here. Suddenly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grunts staring at a naked constructor. The constructor's naked and afraid, is on the horizon. He can see his doom, but hasn't quite yet met them. There we go. Finally, the grunts step forward right here. And you can imagine, right? These could have been doing so much damage a whole lot quicker. They could have pulled the attention away from Alt F4 Alt F4 had all the time in the world to micro all these units over here, but because these ones were standing idle, it meant that the units back here, so it's cat and mouse. Neba had to micro back here to save his own base from devastation, but then of course had no time to micro the units on the other side. So it's sort of like APM warfare, you could think of it. But here we go. This is a huge hit. Yeah, Neba managing to break through to the backline right now and going to start punching into the base of the red commander. We've also got some solar panels up and running. It's always nice to try and shoot those at least once if you can at all help it. Grunt's going to continue running right now and just going to move on forward to this right-hand side where all these mexes are available. This is huge. This is the damage that you're suddenly looking for. Oh, with proper micro, you can win this fight right here. Maybe even with bad micro, you can win this fight right here. Okay, well... somehow the grunts managed to take down all the mexes and one of them even lived. Not that this fight went nothing like the way that it should have in my head. Not the end of the world, of course, but just a little bit hilarious. Single tick over here on the side. I'm going to be very annoyingly poking down all these mexes. And this is a great way of doing it. You just go ahead and attack command between all these. I like to, personally, I'll just hit the F key to enter fight command, and then we'll shift click it between all these mexes. That way it'll stop out of range, and you don't have to worry about it accidentally killing itself with the explosions. More and more grunts coming across the field, though. Yeah, that was a lot of damage done to Alt F4 over here. I don't mind it. I don't mind it whatsoever, actually. LLT, yeah, nice. That's what I'm talking about. Grunts moved over on this side, meant that the attention was pulled away from Obivator, but it does mean that now, suddenly, pawns are dying to LLTs. Shouldn't happen, but it does. Top tier gameplay. Alt F4 showing us that there's a lot more to this game than just spamming out ticks. You can also spam out pawns. Yeah. Now you can see where Alt F4 was going with this. Was hoping to go into that Centurion gaming, trying to push out as many of those Centurion as possible, but really didn't get up to the economy where he felt comfortable to do so. Pawns eventually pushing back this with their slightly increased speed. In case you didn't know. Pawns used to be exactly identical to grunts, except that they had one less range, and they were more expensive, which is like really weird. Well, I shouldn't say they were identical. They were not identical in a lot of ways. They did more damage, and they cost quite a bit more. I believe they have a little bit more HP as well. The trade-off was, though, that grunts were able to infinitely kite them. So they had the exact same speed, but grunts had slightly more range. So what it meant is that grunts would be able to kite the pawns around, and so if you were an Armada player and you were playing with pawns, it was nearly impossible to catch up to grunts and actually do some damage with them. It was very frustrating to play against. They have since changed that, and now pawns have, I believe it's like exactly 5 more speed or something like that. Let's see, speed of 87 versus a speed of 81. So they have 6 more speed than the grunt, means that they can actually catch up to the grunts and kill them. But of course the grunts still have a few precious seconds to blast them down. So if you have enough grunts, and if they're in the right shape, you can still get a huge value. Centurion all alone, this looks like a prime target to me. I would definitely love to see these grunts jumping on top of this bad boy. Not gonna happen. Taking Centurions out and reclaiming their metal is a very, very easy way of stimulating your early economy, right? It's a massive investment that Armada players are going to make into a single unit. And obviously with the flanking bonus that you can get from multiple units, it can be pretty easy to take down some of even the sturdiest of units. Grunts all over the place. It's grunt on grunt warfare. Left, right, and center. The grunts are pushing left, right, and center on the map. It's great. Left, right, and center. How many more times can I say that in this cast? Ooh, we're gonna get it. Oh, just barely. We don't manage to snipe the constructor over here. A bit of a bummer. The exploiter right now is gonna be more than enough to defend against these incoming pawns right here. We've actually just gone for mass exploiter, and I don't mind one bit. As a Cortex commander, it's important to utilize every tool in your playbook because oftentimes Armada does have a few technologically superior items that they can throw at you. So using those exploiters to make sure that your bases are protected from cheeky little run-bys, ticks and pawns and grunts, all that sort of stuff, it's definitely very, very helpful. In fact, I would go so far as to say that it's necessary. Anywho, we've arrived at something of a mid-game. The blue commander looking to step into thugs here, which is interesting. We've got an idle constructor as well. Wouldn't mind seeing it just going around reclaiming a bunch of the metal from all these different wreckages here. You might as well have it doing something. Expanding forward, too, is another potential option. Just never want to have constructors that are idle, or almost never. E-storage coming up right now as well, and it looks like we're going to head into thug warfare. Okay. That's interesting. Thugs are very, very slow, so these reinforcements are going to have to trot a long way up to this front line before they're actually going to be able to apply very much pressure whatsoever. However, once they do get there, thugs are quite resilient. They're quite powerful. They do a decent sum of damage, and they are relatively sturdy as well, so they're just a wonderful skirmishing unit on the front lines. That's the problem, though, is that this front line is moving so fast that I'm not sure that there's really room for it. Neba also going into a vehicle lab here. Apparently going to start, yeah, some good old-fashioned incisor play. These incisor light tanks are just such immense value for their cost. I'm going to go into a pounder first. Okay, nicely done. Yeah, the pounder is a nice assurance against any big crowds of units that should come across your way as well. Definitely helps out a lot. One of the issues that you run into when you're playing with those pounders, though, is that one of the units that's most susceptible to pounders is, of course, the grunt. One too many a time have I seen a single tick run forward into a crowd of grunts, and the pounder tank says, "Ah, enemy detected," and fires away, obliterating its friendly forces just to kill a single tick. It's a tale as old as time, and it's one of Armada's best tricks, is just making Cortex players shoot at themselves. But very frustrating to deal with, yeah. Looks like we do have a rare grunt sneaking into the back line here. We actually have two of them. Going to be dismantled at a molecular level. Oh, Constructor tried to push forward right here, but didn't manage to get it. Oh, okay, maybe. Manages to run away in time to actually save its life. We do have the Exploiter up and running here as well. Nice. Very nice. Time for a thug march. A thug walk, you could even say, if you were so inclined. I like this single pounder as like the core of this push right here. Just trying to use it to push back any of those swarms of units. They're so efficient at dealing with the T1 units that it's kind of ridiculous. Centurion anti-swarm bot, obviously decent against the swarm as well, but in a different kind of way. It's just got the resiliency and the fire rate to actually keep up the pace. But obviously, against a massive incisors like this, there's not a whole lot that one bot is really going to be able to do. Love that the pounder tank basically just watched the carnage right there. So slow that it wasn't able to really do all too much. The single pawn hanging out over here is so strange. We're gonna finally be able to deal with it. It's always nice to see. And my goodness, what an army. Wow. Yeah, what a massive army right here from the blue commander. We've gone ahead and gone for 2.3 thousand metal worth of thugs, and we're just sending them across the map. Meanwhile, we also have a gigantic sum of tanks going across the map here too. Okay. So if we look at the graphs right here, you can see that the metal and energy production is a huge advantage for the red commander. He's expanded out quite nicely. But of course, the actual army value, defense value, damage value, metal produced, and energy produced, all those values are in favor of the blue commander, Nebuchadnezzar. And all that means is that there's more vehicles, there's more bots, there's more units in total out on the field. And I think that's exactly what our red commander is suddenly feeling, is like, whoa, there's massive armies all over the place. Where did all this come from? Well, it came from all that advantage from the early game. It came from trading out really efficiently, and it came from all that harassment that eventually kept the red army stagnated here and is now going to be, well, baring its teeth. Thugs marching forward wherever they can. They're going to start stepping forward here. And we do have some Centurion to try and push them back. I like Centurion. I think they're decent against thugs, but obviously when you get into enough numbers of thugs where you can start blasting down the Centurion pretty quickly, it's not really going to matter all too much. But there we go. You can see Centurion doing quite favorably against the thugs, as long as they can maintain range and position superiority. Here we go. Thugs stepping forward. Beamer turret whittling them down one by one. Always cool to see the beamer tower work. It's a steady, constant stream of damage. It's very useful, but also they gain a lot of benefit from positioning. If you keep a lot of them in one spot and you manage to keep them all essentially flanking for each other, you can get way more value out of them. All said and done, though, the defense here is actually not bad. Yeah, I like it quite a lot. There's that beamer. Another one. Lasering down these thugs over here. Well, this was a bloody battle of incisors and pawns and grunts and centurion and all the rest of it right here. I think eventually this is actually going to be an advantage for the red commander. And you know why? I think it's because a lot of this is going to be reclaimable here. 2 or 3 res bots to reclaim all this, or maybe even resurrect some of it. And you're going to be in a decent way. There we go. Yep, Resbots come out immediately, and suddenly all this metal turns into more Centurion, more Thugs, more units on the front. That's going to be a matter of whether the Red Commander can use that metal in time, or whether it's going to run up in the storage depots before there's actually a chance to spend it on anything useful. Exploiters coming up all over the place is cool to see as well. Armada Commander's forced to go for a metal extractor and an LLT, which is cheaper, by the way. 135 metal versus the Exploiter, clocking in at 240. You get a, I guess you get, you get a decent amount of HP out of this laser tower, but not nearly as much as you get from one of these Exploiters here. The lone Centurion, holding his own against the wave of grunts getting ready to march forward right now. It was but a distraction, though. It was the construction bot that was sent over in this way to try and rebuild those metal extractors. Actually ended up just being brutally deconstructed right now in order to make room for these incisors to march forward. Resbots are picking up this army, though, and so we're going to eventually resurrect all this. 4 Resbots is enough to pick all these units up pretty quickly, but of course you need a lot of energy in order to do that. So the Red Commander investing heavily into wind turbines. Wouldn't mind seeing an investment into advanced solar panels at this point. Those A-Solars can allow you to... They can allow you to consistently resurrect things a lot nicer. Wind turbines here for the Blue Commander are quite nice, though, as well. Energy production-wise, a huge advantage for the Blue Commander, largely because of the huge hit that the Red Commander took just recently. If the aggression remains high, and if we continue to push the advantage, I think Neba has this game in the bag. Commander in a whole lot of trouble here. A massive swarm of units headed forward. Ubivator beset upon by a swarm of grunts now firing from all sides here. Trying to hide behind the LLT, but there's not enough cover. And just like that, the Red Commander goes down. Nicely done by Nebuchadnezzar, who manages to take the victory in this game. A very hard-fought game. A very stressful, high APM game. Ended. Between the Blue and the Red Commander. Showcasing, definitively, maybe just to spite me even, that high APM does not necessarily mean that you're going to win a game of Beyond All Reason. Beyond All Reason is a game that rewards you for thinking creatively. A game that, unlike many RTS games, you can be very, very adaptive and very creative when you're playing. And oftentimes, I think a lot of commanders misjudge just how potent that effect can be. And I think that was an excellent opportunity for Nebo to show us exactly how good it can be to, rather than microing your units often, micro your units well, right? Issue them the correct command, not necessarily 10 commands. Theta Crystal is going to be our next map right here, coming up on the docket. Theta Crystal's 1.3, laden with those Duracell battery crystals. Going to be more than enough energy for these two commanders to vie for as Resbots come out on the field to eat all them up. Of course, you can reclaim them with any construction unit, but Resbots tend to be pretty much the stock standard. They're the bread and butter. Dogs don't run like that. You're talking about the tick? I mean, it's like when a dog really starts galloping, you know? I don't know. Well, somebody grab some stock footage for me. Somebody put a gif of a dog running a full gallop. Well, thank you. Look at that cool cool thing you got set up. Exclamation point caster. That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. I like it. Wow. Okay, what a spawn. Alt F4 Ubivator. I commend you for this creative use of height advantages. Why on earth we decided to go for this one instead? I suppose it gives you a secure 1.8 metal per second. Who doesn't love a safe 1.8 metal per second? I guess I do. You know, I can't complain that much. I mean, I would be pretty happy to have a steady 1.8 metal per second rolling into my bank account. It's not necessarily one of those... It's not one of those game-winning moves, but it's one of those moves that gives you such a weird early advantage that your opponent might not be able to see it, and might not be able to predict it. And little plays like that can scale really quickly into the late game. Bar is a game about exponential growth. There is no upper limit to the resources. There's no ties. Somebody will eventually build a big enough unit to win the game, and sometimes the smallest advantage, like having an extra 1.8 metal per second built up over the entire game, sometimes that's really all it takes. It's good to see. It is damn good to see. I've also received clarification that a couple of players had a bye, so they didn't appear in the first round. It's the reason why they appeared afterwards and confused me. Alt F4 Ubivator, gonna go ahead and go into a bot lab. Okay. Like I said, not surprised in the slightest to see a bot lab coming out here for both of these commanders. Of course, the Resbot is really just too powerful to pass up on this map. The energy crystals that we have all around here, in fact, if I select this commander and just do a big old reclaim command, you can see, yeah, about 30,000 energy or so of energy crystals right here. More than enough to entice any of these commanders into building a couple of those Resbots and sending them forward to try and steal as many of those juicy energy crystals as possible. Can I just say what an excellent design, by the way? These look like energetic crystals. Like, definitely look like something that you would chew on and it would give you, you know, this is a 24-hour energy right here. This is, you know, we've skipped 9-hour energy, we've skipped 18-hour energy. We're going straight to 28-hour energy. They're like Pop Rocks filled with caffeine. Caffeine for robots. I guess that would just be energy, huh? Yeah. Just a voltage. I don't know, man. I just work here. At the crystal processing factories of Ubivore 4. Sometimes, when I'm watching a game of Beyond All Reason, in the early stages of a game of Beyond All Reason, sometimes I like to make up my own headcanons about these worlds. I like to make up my own stories about these worlds. You know, I asked somebody if there was any canon for this game, and really they basically said no, so I just pretend. I like to just make pretend. Works for me. Pawn coming forward. Grunt. Meeting it head on, and suffering the fate that all grunts meet when they suffer the likeness of a pawn head on. These ones, much wiser, and investigated that pawn with their buddies and managed to walk away with their lives intact. And at the end of the day, that is the advantage of going Cortex. You can produce a whole lot of these grunts very quickly. You can spam them out really fast. And oftentimes you can overwhelm Armada commanders, especially if you have enough APM to actually micro all of them across the map. You can really easily start to put out a huge sum of force all over the place in multiple different directions all at the same time. And if an Armada commander isn't really necessarily prepared for that, yeah, you can take a huge advantage very quickly. Nice defense here from these pawns. Their little plasma backpacks, storing all their ammozine, trying to keep them nice and well stocked for the battles to come. What an excellent defense right here. Alt F4. Saying, you know what, I'm ready for you. I know exactly how you like to play, sending these little grunt parties all over the place. I've analyzed how you played last time. I've seen how you do it. Responding perfectly. Yeah, this is basically the perfect defense. And the big advantage that a perfect defense gives you is, of course, that your economy, one, is twofold. One, that your economy remains intact, which is always useful. The other, of course, is just the fact that when you finish defending, those units turn into offensive units. And those are great, because then suddenly you get to do damage on the other side of the map. All very easy, very obvious to see. Is there a challenge? There absolutely is. There absolutely is. We'll see. Can one of the mods put the challenge link in there? I believe somebody already threw it in there at one point, but we'll see if they can put it up again. Let me see. If you do exclamation point brackets. I believe, here, I'm gonna give it a try, actually. There we go. Hey, look at that. Exclamation point brackets pulls up the brackets. Or challenge, that works too. Oh, cool. Oh, that's so cool. Nice work, Shadow. That is some clean work right there. Very, very cool. Is there a way that we can make one that automatically starts a gamble? Because that would be pretty fun as well. As far as this game is concerned, pretty I'm gonna say boring. I'm gonna say boring in the kindest of way. It's boring because it's been basically perfect. A perfect offense right here from Nebuchadnezzar, who's sending these units across the map and trying to find any angle possible. And a perfect game from Alt F4, who has just been entirely on top of it with the defense. Has been not allowing a single unit through, has not been letting any of these lines be broken. This is the perfect game of Beyond All Reason. And what that looks like is two completely equal forces just trying to test each other, trying to find angles. Here we go. The first damage that will be done. Very literally. I mean, you can see just in the couple of damage that a grunt can do, we're literally seeing shifts of several percent in the total damage value done by both of these teams. It's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I feel like Alt F4 is respecting Neb quite a bit more here. Yeah. This screams to me that Alt F4 was a lot more confident in the last game and is a little bit less confident this game. Not sending as many units on the field, not trying anything nearly as fancy. Eventually making their way into the Centurion gameplay that they were building eventually in the backside of last game. But taking it way easier, right? Slowly expanding into that rather than trying to rush to the Centurions. Giving Neb the respect that I think he deserves. Hey, here's those walls that I was talking about earlier. I was mentioning that it's really the high APM gamers that are playing with these walls, but I'm glad to see that it's kind of maybe not becoming standard, but it's becoming more common, I guess is what I'll call it. Using those walls to choke point different areas and just make sure that units have a hard time running by is really cool to see. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Ubivator beset upon by a whole bunch of grunts. I don't think we have enough here to kill this commander. But definitely bringing the red commander very low. Yeah, reinforcements eventually going to surround the commander and protect them with their lives. But my goodness, Ubivator has got to be clenched. That's a full clench moment right there. You're 100% clenched as could be. After watching your commander be jumped upon by a whole swarm of grunts and brought down to just 36% HP. Centurion's now coming out of the lab. They're slowly marching forward here, trying to find that value that they need. Neb expanding with the exploiters here. We left a couple of metal extractors unclaimed, which is a bit odd. I imagine the commander's gonna go, yeah, take care of those. Nice. There we go. Right as I said it. Great minds. It looks like Neb is right on top of it. We're gonna make an air transition here. That's gonna be the play for the blue commander. Well, it looks like we also have a grunt that was caught on the ocean over here. Just kind of decided to walk out into the ocean, never to be seen again. Eventually going to be seen again by the red forces right here. Little grunt dying action for you there. Nice. Exclamation point commands for a list. Oh, I see. It's a big swarm of grunts moving on the northern side. Pardon me 1 second, I'm gonna blow my nose. Whoa, I apologize for that. Sorry. Missed a lot. In the 12 seconds I was gone to grab some tissue paper. I missed a lot. Hold on. Are we coming back clear? Testing, audio check. 1, 2. Testing, audio check. Phew. Sorry about that. Anyway, looks like a bombing run has come across the map and is connected with a big portion of the wind turbines here for the Red Commander. Meanwhile, it looks like a big swarm of units has marched forward for Alt F4. Jumping into the action right now and managing to, at the very least, find the laboratory here. Going to see the air lab, at the very least confirming. We are still going into air production here as we're going to continue investing in the build power. Speaking of build power, blasted apart by the Centurion in the backline. Shuriken trying their best to mop all this up as much as possible. Ooh. I think the game might have just kicked off the second that I left. In the exact moment that I left, I think the entire game exploded. Shuriken doing a great job of paralyzing these units in the backline here. Going to save the base a little bit. Well, a very little bit. I want to say way more damage done right here, though, from Alt F4 to the Blue Commander than vice versa. That being said, the metal for the Blue Commander is skyrocketing. So right now, what we desperately need is some energy production. Yeah, you can see actually overflowing metal right now. Definitely not where we want to be. Commander needs to start... Yeah, we're just going to start spamming out solar panels because at this point, it's the only thing that we can do. A metal storage might not even be the worst idea here. It's sort of a panic metal storage, but it might work better than nothing. Commander building solar panels. Meanwhile, yeah, you know, that bombing run was nice, but it doesn't feel like it really connected with the Red Commander's main base a whole lot better. Not enough to make up the difference right here, I feel. Exploiters are nice and all. There's a fine line where suddenly you have enough units to overwhelm them, though, and I think we've hit it. Yep. Just like that, the pawns overwhelm the defensive value here of these exploiters, and suddenly it's going to take a lot more than just pure exploiter to hold this front line together. We either need to invest in sturdier static defenses, or we need to invest in some units to put out there on the line. Either one of those is going to work out great, but a decision must be made. The thing about the exploiters, though, is they're sort of an atrophy thing. Like, as you run into them over and over again, pushing the line, your units are slowly being whittled down, and that's kind of the value of them on a lot of maps, is that if you set up enough of them, they're going to slow down the enemy's progression so much that they don't really have any force to keep pushing after they eventually get to you. I almost wonder if a T2 lab is worthwhile right now, too, for the Blue Commander. We're going to go into medium tanks, we're going into air, and we're going into bots. Well, we don't technically have any air coming up right now. What are we going to do with that massive sum of metal that we've got in the bank account right now? Yeah, the Red Commander flipping this game on its head right now. You can see the damage value, the defense value, the army value, the energy, metal produced, all of it leading to a favor of the red kind. I guess damage value is still in flux, but as the game goes on, it's going to continue to skew. And of course, that production value is just ginormous. There's a bunch of grunts moving forward. Okay. Hey, look at that. Grunts finding the one angle through the midsection here into the backline of the Red Commander. There were units on top. There were units on bottom. There were units left, right, and center. But somehow they managed to find the one pocket where there weren't actually any defenses, and they managed to slip through and do some damage. Cool stuff. Centurion, meanwhile, over on this side, going to start blasting out a whole bunch of the grunts. We've got a big old army headed in this direction. You know what? Those Centurion are pretty good, though. One of their advantages is, of course, their high fire rate means they can jump between targets really quickly. Means that they don't struggle too much at dealing with these big swarms of grunts. At the very least, they're going to trade very efficiently. Fighters overhead. Whoa! And there we go. Just like that, Nebuchadnezzar throws in the towel. Alt F4, taking game number 2. My goodness. The aggression from the Red Commander manages to pull the Blue Commander into the end of the game right there. Just manages to tear down the economy to the point that, I guess with the air surround, knew that the game was over. Very, very close game right there. Very, very close, all the way to the very end. But yeah, you can see, pulled away, Ubervator did, and eventually that eco-scaling led to a big enough difference that I guess Yeah, Neba was wise enough to recognize when that game was well and over. What an interesting end to that match right there. We'll go ahead and hop in here and see if there's any other games going on, but it looks like, yeah, looks like those ones basically took the longest. Not the end of the world, of course. It just means that we're going to be headed on into round number 3. Oh. Oh, a surprise turn of events. Hold on. Let me see. Let me... Hold on. We might have a special treat. We might have a little treat. Let's see. In the meantime, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's go ahead and hop on over to the leaderboard section. And there we go. The leaderboard's now updated, as we can see. Nicely done. I'll refresh this just to make sure. Just to be sure. Alright, perfect. So, Randy taking 2-0 over Domino. User 001 taking 2-0 over Pooman. Modulo sweeping as well against Roy Jelly. Oh, is it supposed to be like Royal Jelly? Is that... Ugh. You hear that voice crack right there? Oh my goodness. That was awful. Ugh. Anyway. Manly voice. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Brad Works. Ubavator and Neba going one apiece right here. Okay. This is going to be an awesome game. Randy versus Modulo. Ubavator versus Domino. User 001. And Corgavel and Neba going up against Roy Jelly. I think we're going to hop right into this Randy versus Modulo game. And I think, let's see here. Let me see here. I think I have a special treat for you ladies and gentlemen. A very special treat indeed. Where is the Randy versus Modulo? There it is. Yeah. Oh yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it's gonna get good. Ooh, I'm excited. I don't see the build power value. Did it change name? No, that has been since I guess relegated. It's been antiquated. No, it's been removed basically. We got rid of the build power thing. I liked it, but it also had its drawbacks. There were some technical issues with it, and it didn't really showcase what I actually wanted it to. It kind of showcased a lot of extra information, and I think it was more cluttery than anything else. I would like to bring it back in some form of another, but I think we're gonna have to relook into how exactly we want that to look. Just give me a second here. I'm putting together something special in the background for you gentlemen and lady. Ladies and gentlemen. Looks like Modulo and Randy are going to be kicking off their game here pretty soon. I have a... Oh man, come on. I hope we can do it. Oh wait, maybe there's a... Oh, hold on. There might be something else here, actually. Let me look over here instead. Somewhere around here. somewhere around here. Let me check. Oh, dang. Oh, it'd be so cool. I wanna. I don't want to spoil the surprise. I want to reveal the surprise dramatically, but let's see. Okay, never mind. Well, we'll do it next. We'll do it next match. We'll do it next match. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the main scene. The main scene. Why don't we switch this up here? Oh, that's a good one. There's 3, right? It's yeah, that one. We'll go with this guy for now. For now. Spawning on the southern side, spawning in the green corner, spawning as a blue Armada commander. It's gonna be none other than Pro Randy. Randy, I believe at the top of the leaderboards. Hold on, let me just double check real quick. Let me just as far as the actual leaderboards go, yeah, Randy is number 5 on the leaderboard. So Alt F4 Ubavator is number 4, and Randy is number 5. So those two are like right next to each other on the leaderboards. And then after that, let's see. Oh, there's the leaderboard. So Randy, as far as this fight night goes, on top of the leaderboard and tied against Modulo. Tied against Modulo. So
battle started.
This match will be a big one. This is the match where the 2 top dogs are going to face off against each other. And they're gonna determine which one of them is gonna go ahead and take the lead right here. So it's an important game. It means both of these commanders are gonna be taking it seriously. We're not looking at any funny builds. We're not going early T2. We're not doing any, cheeky random whatever rush builds or anything like that. We're going full serious mode. And it looks like Modulo also going to be playing as Armada. Cool. Oh man, it's been forever since I've seen a pro level Armada 1v1. This is going to be an absolute treat. Now, Modulo was spawned on the low ground here, which is an interesting decision. Like I mentioned before, it's possible. You can do it. One of the issues you run into is that you just get those mexes up a little bit slower, but it doesn't really matter because you hit that E-stall all the same. Oh, wow. Okay. Randy going for an early Banshee and an early construction aircraft. Right when I was saying I don't expect anything super cheeky, super cheeky out of these guys. All of a sudden, immediately, we see an air lab. Okay. So we've got Banshees coming up, we've got the constructors coming up, and Modulo is going into a bot lab. Obviously, it's too early into the game to scout an air lab. Tick is going to head across the map, but it won't get there until probably the Banshee comes out of the actual lab itself. Okay, we're going to start reclaiming the lab here. What a weird build. Randy just dumping resources into this lab as much as possible. Reclaiming when he doesn't have any energy, and then dumping the energy into the lab whenever he does. Okay. Well, can the Banshee get enough damage done? It has it costs 135 metal. It has 485 health. The metal to health ratio is atrocious on a Banshee. There we go. Anti-air tower is thrown up almost immediately. Yeah, discovering that Modulo spawned on the low ground is a huge blessing because all of a sudden it means, of course, we can go ahead and start firing away at these metal extractors over here. They can't really be protected. One of the things I'd like to see is, of course, dumb firing on the ground right here to try and pop the actual wreckages. But the blue commander manages to retreat the gunship and save it for a later day. Okay. Air lab almost deconstructed at this point, and we are going to go into a bot lab. Well, you know what? A little bit of damage on the other side of the field is better than no damage on this side of the field, and Randy did take none. It means the constructor is going to be a little bit slower, though, and here comes the Banshees. Yeah, they have to avoid that anti-air bot firing away at them, doing gigantic damage to them. There's definitely something to be said for being very, very careful. Pretty cool map, I agree. I definitely agree. This is one of those special maps. It holds a special place in my heart. Yeah. It just reminds me so much of StarCraft, which I've had plenty of fun playing, so it feels it's almost like a nostalgia, if you will. All right. We're transitioning into something a little bit more standard here, but of course with this constructor, Randy is also going to be able to claim these high ground mexes, which is important, right? These mexes are very, very valuable. They are only 2.1 metal, the same as every other mex on this map, except of course the fact that they're very difficult to reach. So it's going to take either vehicles shell-shocking their way up to the top here, otherwise you have to go all the way to T2 for something that can climb, or you have to go into air for something that can bomb, right? You need essentially a unique tool to solve these metal extractors right here, and it's expensive. It's an expensive pivot to make, and Randy has already pulled off making that pivot in order to achieve it. It's going to take exactly as much of an expense from the red commander to counteract it, but of course has already taken damage from it, so it's, you know, you suffer twice. For that reason, I think it's a wonderful advantage right now. I mean, the blue commander is going to be able to run away with it. We do have an LLT queued up right here. You can see Modulo planning to go for a light laser tower. And I believe that laser tower will be able to defend, yeah, both of those mexes there. So it's a very cheap solution. The anti-air tower here to shut down the constructor is quite nice as well. Yeah, LLT going to come up in 3 seconds. The anti-air coming up in 3 seconds. The LLT coming up in 40. Not necessarily going to be worthwhile. We have the single anti-air tower back here, but we also have the anti-air bot, so there is enough anti-air coverage back here. I was just double checking. You have to be very careful about that sort of thing. Make sure that you have anti-air in all the right places. Here's those LLTs, though. They are coming up slowly but surely. So did these mechs pay for themselves? Well, they only need 25 seconds worth of production to pay for themselves, and I think we've definitely had them longer than that. So I want to say that these mechs overall were a positive investment. Yeah, just in the time it took this commander to walk over here, I think they've probably paid for themselves. Yeah, they've definitely made their metal back. So, at the very least, the blue commander didn't lose anything from that. Might not have gotten as big of a metal advantage as you would imagine, but definitely managed to crank out a little bit of extra metal from that. That's always going to be worth it here. Randy now moving forward. Didn't go for a medium transport or anything like that to move the commander around, and now we've got a huge army heading forward, so it's going to be a bit of an interesting situation. Suddenly, we've got, what is that? A whopping 10 pawns ready to jump on top of whatever they can. Randy. There's a lot of units right there, Randy. I don't know if we exactly want to be pushing this. That's a good D-gun. That's another decent one. LLT here doing a decent job against that commander, but the pawn's doing an even better one, I want to say. All said and done, I think... Oh. Well, would you look at that? Modulo has left the game. Was this a disconnect, or was this... Did we lag out here, or was this an actual proper disconnect? What just happened? I believe Modulo was hoping to win right there, and then I guess he didn't. No GG, no nothing. Modulo loses the first game. Wow. Very close right there. Almost managed to bring it back, but suddenly Randy managed to pull ahead. Well, I'll say that was a very early call on that GG right there. A little earlier than I might have, but those Banshees in the early game, they must have thrown Modulo for a loop, and it was definitely very frustrating, and I can imagine that made for a very rough situation. What exactly happened here? Yeah, Modulo is no longer in the game. I think what we're seeing here is that was a disconnect. I don't think Modulo left. I think that was a disconnect. Yeah, Modulo dropped from the game right there. Either way, that's going to be 1 point for Randy on the board right here. They're going to move into game number 2, and I think we're ready. I think we are ready. Ladies and gentlemen, now introducing Barcast TV. Howdy, sir.
Hey, Brett. Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has been a while. What you been up to?
Well, you know, just grinding that 1v1 scene, of course. So.
Oh, yeah. You're pretty high up on the leaderboards. I was checking that earlier today, and I saw your name up there. I was like, oh my goodness. Barcast TV, what are you, number 6 on the leaderboards now? Put in that work.
It's purely coincidental. I just...
Yeah,
I just thought
sure. So are you not playing in the tournament today? I thought I saw your name on the list for a second there.
Yeah, I couldn't make it to the registration. I had to...
no worries.
Yeah, anyway, so here I am casting with you, so I guess it kind of worked out.
Awesome. Yeah, still get to check it out.
Yeah.
It's been pretty awesome. I'm sure you're well aware that we have some real talent out on the field today. It's pretty insane.
Well,
Like,
you fill me in on that because well, I see Andy playing here. Did anyone else register? Because
we've got Andy here. We have Modulo is playing as well. We've also had, who was it? Alt F4 showed up as well. Ubavator, Alt F4 Ubavator. Some top tier players, top 10 top tier players. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I guess
Rojalil, a lot of good ones. Right now, I'm not sure exactly what happened. But for some reason, Modulo left the game. I think he disconnected. I'm not entirely sure. Do you know what happens in that situation?
I think they might have to get an administrator in here and make a ruling or something like that. Because I don't think there's a way to like start from replay, right? So
no, I don't believe so.
Why did the match end though? Because in bar, like you can like reload into the game and it catches you up, right? I know you can kind of join that way. So
I believe what happened was Modulo, either when he disconnected, it didn't make the usual. It didn't like disconnect the little bars above his commander's head, so it looked like he was still there. So I think Randy killed the commander with his units, thinking he was just standing there or that he had tapped out of the game. And then didn't realize that his opponent had actually disconnected. So maybe if we had paused right on time, maybe it would have been resumable. But I don't think anybody caught it in time. I think everybody was just trying to figure out what actually happened, trying to figure out some kind of ruling.
That's unfortunate. I suppose I'm sure someone has messaged Neb already. He'd be the guy to get in contact with. I'm not sure who else would be able to make a ruling on this, right?
Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be a barcast a Fight Night I don't know, admin or something who can tell us exactly how it's going to go down.
Okay.
Lagged out.
I'll message him just for to double check to make sure.
Sure. I assume they're probably going to head into game number 2 because they're going to play regardless. We need an adult, cries out Pro Randy. We do indeed. What happens when something like this happens? I think the ruling is that the advantage, the clear advantage in that game was towards Randy, but far be it for me to say that they can't go back and fight another game. I think they're looks like they want to play game number 2. We'll wait for the official decision from Neba. What to do when player disconnects during game?
Hold on. If I'm gonna just drop in and then talk to Neb real fast. I'll come right back.
Oh, sure thing.
To your Discord.
Sounds good. The treat, ladies and gentlemen, the treat. Barcast TV, who will be right back in a mere moment after confirming with Neb about exactly how we're supposed to do this. Suddenly, a big stir up in the Fight Night community is now we are not entirely sure where we're supposed to go after this. Oh, they're setting the map back to FTL. Oh, and they're starting. And Nebo says to replay. Okay. Not bad. Well then, ladies and gentlemen, it appears like, it seems like, we're going to have ourselves a little bit of a rematch. Randy has to be a little bit raw about that. Was definitely ahead in the game, just had a little bit more medal income. Was ever so slightly ahead, all things considered. But it wasn't like Modulo was out of the game yet. There was definitely, it was a close contest between all those pawns and the commander, the LLTs, all that sort of stuff. I feel like, realistically, Modulo still had plenty of opportunity to come back in that game. So it's a little bit of a situation where it's not entirely crystal clear how the ruling is supposed to go. So Neb is saying replay if there's time, and I think I agree, because I want to see some top tier bar. There you go. Welcome back.
Hey, I guess we got a ruling, right?
Yep, we're going to be redoing it. It's a rematch, right, which is great.
Nice.
Because now you get to watch it from the start.
So I didn't catch the last game. I'd be curious to know if it plays out similar to what they did in the previous game.
Yeah, so
Do you mind telling me what happened?
sure, yeah, I'll give you a play-by-play of the last game. Essentially, Randy played as Armada, opened up with an Armada air lab, sent 2 Banshees across the map to snipe metal extractors, sent a Constructor to grab the high ground mexes, and then transitioned into a bot lab. It completely caught Modulo off guard as he spawned on the low ground, very exactly the same as he is right now, and just went into a pure bot lab build. So it was definitely a clear advantage from the beginning. There was loads of metal extractors that have been taken, and you can see they're even bantering about it in the chat right now.
Yeah, that plays a dynamic, right? When you play like multiple games against the same opponent, there's this dynamic that comes up. Like, if they'll go air, right? Do they go air again? Not many players open like this, but I know Andy definitely has some of these in his pocket, right?
Yeah, I think clearly that Armada build had been practiced. The way that from the timings of all the different units coming out of the laboratory and the timings to get across the map, it definitely felt like Andy was prepared for that. So I know he's got to be a little bit miffed about pulling out a build that cheeky and then having to redo the game because of a disconnect technicality. It's always a little bit sore.
I like the air start on this map though, because like you were saying, he flies to, I'm guessing it was that plateau kind of on the top middle side with the 4 mexes right there in a row.
That's correct.
I mean, that's fantastic value. Normally you have to kind of, I mean, there's a couple different ways to get build power up there, but having it so early and protected, right? You just get these free mexes that you don't have to defend with units. So
yeah, it's a huge investment, and on top of the damage that he already did, essentially Modulo would have had to make as big of an investment to get up there, and then as big of an investment to counter it after already taking damage, right? So it puts you even further behind than you already are. So it's sort of a catch-22. If you solve the problem, you put yourself further behind, and if you don't, then you're also further behind. It was a great play by Randy. Apparently going into Cortex this time. Interesting.
This is, I don't want to say, well, it is standard in 1v1s, like opening core bots, right? It's
true.
Interesting is doing it on a solar map, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of a, it feels like Randy is sort of trying to throw off Modulo a little bit. I don't know which one Randy is more comfortable with. I imagine he's probably played more core, just because it's kind of been the standard for so long. But Modulo seems comfortable with ARM. I think with the pawns finally being able to keep up with grunts a little bit, I feel like people are starting to slowly teeter into experimenting a little bit more, seeing if Armada can truly fight against core in the 1v1 set.
Yeah. It's something I've been kind of incorporating into my own games. Like ARM has a lot of great tools at their disposal, like not least of which the tick, which in this like early game, it feels so much better, right? It's faster than the grunt. It has more line of sight than the grunt, right? So when there is all these like openings in the map, it's not choked up by units and LLTs right everywhere. It's like these early game ticks. I don't know if you've watched like Alt F4. I don't know if he demonstrated any of his like ARM bots play, right, man?
I've seen a couple of matches. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it gets rough, right? And like it's just a totally different style. So it's cool to practice. It's kind of sucks to play against sometimes, right? 'Cause it's...
Yeah, absolutely. At one point, I think Alt F4 had 10 grunts in a perfect circle around the base of whoever he was fighting, and I was just looking at it like, oh my god, or ticks, I mean, around the base, and I was just looking at it like, what an awful scenario to think you're clear to move out of your base from any direction, and no matter where you go, you find an enemy unit staring at you. Like, talk about perfect line of sight, just...
Yeah, and he knows exactly where to put his pawns, right? Which is another maybe advantage they have over core. It's like their pawns are better at raiding if you have the vision, and grunts are slow and have low line of sight. So when you're on your opponent's side of the map, you're kind of flying blind, right? Looking for damage, right? Whereas in the ARM player, you've scouted ahead with the ticks and you know exactly where to put the pawns, which I think I think it makes raiding a lot easier, but
and more efficient too.
Yeah, for sure.
Do it with less units, which you have to because they're a little more expensive.
Right.
It's definitely an interesting dynamic. I'm curious to see how Legion's going to fit in all of it too. You know me, I'm always thinking about Legion.
Yes. I mean, we've had some bar fight nights with Legion,
That's
right?
true.
Which have been super fun. Have you seen any of those?
I've seen some. I think I casted one of them, and I think I played in one of them as well.
Okay.
A lot of fun. I get a lot of experience just from the live streams playing Legion. Can't wait for the the official Legion tournament or whatever. I'm gonna put my skills out to pay the bills.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I like how different they feel, and the units. I mean, I've only really experienced it in like the 1v1 context, right? I haven't played many team games, like big team games with Legion on, but it is cool to have the third race, and it felt different than the other two, which is cool. So I'm just, happy to see them working on that and trying to make it a part of the game, right?
Yeah, they add a little bit of nuance to the core and arm back and forth. It kind of throws in a couple of interesting new dynamics, which is neat. As far as team games goes, one of the things that I've seen a lot is popping up suddenly the same way, for instance, a naval player would request a constructor to build, land economy. Oftentimes, I'll see arm and core commanders requesting Legion constructors to build their overcharged metal extractors to try and boost that economy ever so slightly in the early game. And it's a little thing, but double the metal income for a front line is huge, even if it costs you a little bit extra energy.
That kind of reminds me of the T2 phase when the better constructor comes out and you're trying to distribute it to your whole team, right? That's interesting. That would be like a T1 mechanic maybe in big team games. Right? That sounds really cool, actually.
It's interesting. New mechanics, always fun. As far as this game goes, though, looks pretty much dead even. Feels like both of these commanders have kind of scaled into exactly the same situation. Would you agree?
It does feel even, with the exception of the quality of units we have from both players. I see multiple Centurions out and the pawns behind them, right? So maybe on like bottom mid, there's I should look on your view actually so I can see what you're looking at. Let me switch over to that. Yeah, sure. These Centurions, right? They're actually really great having the Exploiter and the 2 LLTs there. That kind of shuts this down, but just one LLT is not going to stop a Centurion for sure, and grunts are also equally pretty terrible against them. So
yeah,
it's unfortunate to see Modulo losing these without having them supported with some kind of res bot, right, to get these repaired up as they skirmish and take damage.
Yeah, I think we're definitely seeing these commanders taxed to their APM limits here.
Yeah,
feels
absolutely.
Like they're really leaving it all out there because there's definitely little things all over the place that feel like could be optimized. Centurion Resbot is so brutal to fight against. Even when you bring one down, they're pretty easy to resurrect. The only 3,000 energy is, I mean, in the early game that's quite a lot, but what do you pay to resurrect again? It's like 70% of the energy or something like that?
It's zero of the metal and a bit of the energy, a percentage of the energy, right? So
yeah. Very efficient for a unit that you get so much HP for. Super efficient to resurrect or just repair, which is completely free. Yeah.
Did we get a shot of the main base of Andy? I think he's making a transition, no? Okay, so he's gone onto vehicles, and he's making the A Solars as well. So this is really nice play. I wonder what unit he's going to be making.
This, to me, reaching for these A Solars means he's looking to go into air eventually. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an air transition with all this build power on the high ground. It would make a lot of sense to put an air lab down right here and just pump out a bunch of shuriken, maybe use a bunch of incisors plus some shuriken to try and break one of these front lines. That being said, the thugs are going to do a great job regardless here. Not like the LLTs can hold up much water against them. They're just so tanky.
Oh, that's right. And they're easy to micro too. Like you can step back with them. They're really
that's true.
Really great units, honestly. I love that thug.
Yep. The southern side is broken. Grunts pushing forward. There is an LLT here to defend, but I think yeah, we got the res bots here too. There they are.
Yeah, repair is so good. If you thought resing was good, wait till you've seen repair, right?
Absolutely. Completely free HP on your units, basically make them immortal. Yeah, it doesn't really get more efficient than that. I will say this northern side was broken nicely though. A little bit of a trade back and forth right here between these commanders, but huge army pushing right through the midsection here. We got 5 brutes, 6 brutes moving forward right now. LLT not going to do much. Brutes are kind of designed to raid.
Yeah, they're tanky. They move fairly quickly, right?
I would say.
But they just deal with LLT so well, right? So that early part of the game where you spend trying to put them up to defend yourself from raids and skirmishing units, well, suddenly you move into the medium tank stage of 1v1s, and
doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, exactly. They're just rolling right into the main base, right?
Yep.
Right through the pawns. So
just like that. My goodness.
A good repair micro, or reclaim micro though, coming out of those turrets.
He's taking those tanks down. Cool. Hey, that's
Yeah,
pretty good. You get the full value from those tanks too when you do that. So it does boost the economy quite a lot. We can see now the blue economy on the top of the screen here. It just got suddenly a big old influx of about 600 metal all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's not a negligible amount of metal, right? You can just quickly return that into maybe a second factory or more solar collectors, right?
Yeah. We got a big line of regular solars. It's kind of weird. Very.
Yeah, you do it. I mean, you do what you gotta do when you're you're trying to do 90 things at once, right? You
That's
just draw a
true.
line.
Yeah, whenever I see a line like this, it just makes me a little bit worried about an air transition, because that bomber, one good bombing run comes across this line of solar panels, and suddenly, I mean, they are only T1 solar panels, but still, that's 220 energy completely down the drain. Oh man, these medium tanks.
Yeah, and he did a great job splitting a few of those off and sniping these peripheral mexes, right? And those are hard to take. I mean, you have to send build power there. They have to walk all the way across the map. This is a nice trade.
Yeah, I would say these all these wrecks being left behind gonna be very useful for the Red Commander.
So here's a hot take. ARM is good. ARM bots is really good against core vehicles, right?
Really?
So that's absolutely. Pawns and ticks deal with incisors a lot better than grunts versus incisors, right?
Okay.
So that becomes maybe I'd say the easier playing bots versus vehicles, right? But now we see Andy's transition into vehicles. Modulo's still on these bots when he's actually gotten a lot of great value out of them, frankly, because he caught Andy at the perfect timing right there, because he sniped those two artillery on the other side of the commander right now. See those
right over here,
wreckage,
yep.
Right? Now he's got a lot of pressure on. He's spending his metal. Is he making a transition, or I guess it's still bots coming out of him? I see.
He's got a vehicle lab up and running, but I think mostly he's just using the tanks to defend. I guess he's got some on the other side though, just gumming up the inner workings right here. It feels like Modulo's getting a little aggressive right now. I don't know if this trade is panning out so wonderfully for the blue commander all of a sudden. What are we doing here, Modulo? The commander is how you win or lose a game of bar, and it makes me a little scared to see him jumping in like that. Suddenly, medium tanks push back. Uh-oh.
He made these Janus, and he brought him to the front line. They didn't really get any real value, right? You got two shots off. You got to repair those and kind of skirmish with these medium tanks. But now this isolated commander is just walking backwards.
This is not good. This is a really bad situation. I think Modulo overextended here. I don't think you realized how quickly those units go away when you push into a full production tank lab. Oh no.
Yeah, kiting's really good in bar, and now this commander's completely surrounded.
Up against the wall too. Oh no! Boom goes the blue commander. GG is called, and Randy manages to take game number 1 again. Game number 1 the second. Kudos to Modulo there for trying to pressure and maybe going for. I've been in the same situation before, right? And I mean, these top players are so good at kiting and buying time, right? And that was just that was a tight game from Andy there. It's hard to win against these players who have just a lot of experience in these 1v1s, right? They know when to transition, when to fall back. I mean, it's a great game. It was a great game, and then it was. I think Modulo might have thought he could have gone for the snipe there. I feel like he was reaching for the snipe, but he didn't account for the fact that those fresh vehicles are going to be rolling off the line right there. That reinforcement advantage is so heavy, especially for Cortex with how tanky their tanks are.
Absolutely.
It feels like there was so much HP being pushed out to the battlefield every single second right there that suddenly Modulo was left with 0 units on the field, a commander backed up against a wall. His lab was in trouble too from the tanks on the southern side. Suddenly, everything just kind of came crumbling down. You know what I think it was? I think you were right. I think it was those advanced solar panels. I think those were efficient enough energy production that the metal could go into units rather than going into just economy in the backline. And as opposed to the, say, for instance, line of regular solar panels.
Right.
that Modulo had in the backline. The great wall of solar panels.
That would be a great game to go back and study, because I've gotten this question a lot. When do I make A solars, right? On a map like a Comet Catcher, something like that.
Sure, yeah,
and
just a pure
FTL,
solar map.
Exactly. So I mean, Andy knows how to do that transition.
Battle started.
This is a much different map, Canis River, right? Which we've seen a lot in the 1v1 scene.
For sure. My favorite thing about this map is, of course, whenever the commanders step across the pond, start
In
getting
the
real
middle?
creative. Yep.
Let me.
Happens way too often. I feel like if you're not taking precautions against that, then you're not really just playing to the map's strengths and weaknesses. So hopefully we see these commanders paying attention to that.
Okay, so who do you think's gonna win this match?
Who do I think is going to win? Let's see. Well,
Oh, yeah.
Randy is spawning on the southern side as an Armada commander, so that's cool to see.
That's interesting, yeah.
Modulo spawning on the northern side as a Cortex commander, so an exact inversion of the last game that we saw.
Uh-huh.
Pretty interesting. I'm hoping that Randy wins it. I'm not gonna lie. I want to see some more good old-fashioned ARM gameplay. I can't wait to see some Janus tanks on the front line. I'm pretty confident that Randy is going to be able to micro him pretty good. And there's nothing more painful than playing against a couple of Janus, and nothing more beautiful than watching a couple of Janus that are perfectly microed.
Yeah, as a Cortex enjoyer, I have to say, I think we have a bit of a superior unit, and like the Banisher, it's got like the same feels as the Janus, right? Like,
it's true, but you do gotta go all the way to T2 to get it.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a long ways away, but yeah, that's true. Once you get there, the Janus, or the Banisher, I mean, it's got nearly double the range, something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Way more damage, and it can shoot at airplanes, which is, you wouldn't think it's very useful, but it comes in remarkably useful from time to time. Anti-air missile capabilities. Interesting spawn from Modulo in the backline here.
Yeah, and interesting to see him play vehicles as well. But both these players, sorry, Modulo's playing very conservative, actually, like spawning on this hill. I've seen a few players do this, and I want to say we'll see him maybe commander walking outside of the main down that ramp, and then heading, what is that, top left? Towards the Geo, right? Just capping these remixes, trying to get these.
Yeah, that would definitely be a very like risk-averse way to move forward with this, but maybe feeling like maybe was anticipating bot play here from Randy, and so was expecting to be harassed a lot more by ticks and pawns and whatnot. Might be a little bit relieved to see vehicles, but also a little bit concerned for the fact that it might not have been necessary to play so conservative.
I like seeing this, man. I think 1v1 does get a bad rap. It's like, oh, it's just a grunt fest, right? But like neither player is like open bots, core bots is all right on a map with like.
I'm totally
ECG.
with you.
Yep.
100%. It's great to see. It's great to see that. To me, it speaks that the game is in a really balanced state where commanders feel comfortable going for a big, open catalog of strategies. It's not just you have to play core bots, otherwise you lose. Like we've seen dozens of Armada commanders this tournament, and also, I mean, we've seen air starts this tournament, for Pete's sake. Like we've seen everything so far. So yeah, it feels like if you're struggling and you're reaching for core bots, that's fine. But there's definitely these pro level players that have figured out how to do something special with the other tools at their disposal.
And to that point, I'd say look at Andy's open here, right? He's like at what, 10 rovers, 12 rovers or something. Like he's like packs like sharking around the map looking for, like, first of all, getting great vision.
That's true.
Great pressure, right? And that's given him the chance to kind of freely expand. He's got these like construction bot gang moving, I guess that's what, bottom mid, something like that, towards his geo as well.
Yeah, that little array of construction bots is going to be great. It looks like they're going to set up all those mexes. They're also doing turret expands, which I think makes a lot of sense, especially if you're going vehicles where you just can't afford to have as many units as you can with bots. It makes sense to put a couple of those static defenses down.
Going radar expands. Look at it, classic Andy fashion. He's putting the radar down first before the LLT.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, that's funny. Oh, I'm going for beamer turrets too. Maybe choosing that beamer turret there as a way, just thinking that's going to be a more important chokehold. So maybe I'll throw down a more a heavier static defense. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like you get this up, and then suddenly your units are protecting fewer lanes for a short period of time. Like eventually, like Modulo could muster a force to press through that, right? But really, stage in the game, the last thing you'd want to do is like run units into a beamer, right? You want to find like holes in the armor,
Yep.
See where they're expanding, see where they have cons.
You're not trying to fight a static defense turret head on, not until you have medium tanks at the very least.
Right.
We do have a lot of incisor headed forward though.
You're gonna see incisor versus blitz, right? And
let's see it.
I don't particularly. This is a nice turnaround. Great job.
Yeah,
Modulo
good
really
read.
needs. He needs the scouts with these tanks, right? Because
Mhm.
he needs to know where the commander is for one, which he spots it in the main base there. But you need to know like you need the line of sight to make good decisions, right? Otherwise, yeah, you're gonna fall into an arc of units and an LLT, and then lose your tanks, which is
Yeah,
the last thing you want.
that could have gone way worse had he not turned around with those tanks right there, because the blitzes were coming in from both sides. It would have been almost a perfect surround, and this fight doesn't really feel very efficient either.
Yeah,
he retreated fast enough though. He only lost one tank, so I guess that's worth it. You think it's worth it to pull these tanks back and repair?
Individually, yeah, I think that we should see more of that, frankly, right?
Right.
You just like grab the damaged tank and just click on your main base and maybe deselect that out of a control group if you use one. So
Yeah, those auto groups really mess me up all the time because they're so convenient, but they also make it pretty hard to split up tanks that are damaged. That's the next tier between mediocre and top tier gameplay is using actual control groups.
I am an auto group enjoyer, right? I think I use like Shuris, Resbots, Figs. I think I have on the auto groups, like bombers, stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But like tanks and grunts, like I just don't really need it, I suppose, right? You just play super zoomed out, so it's like not really necessary.
Yeah, play from the top down view, the orbital view.
Yeah.
Pretty neck and neck as far as metal production goes. Looks like both of these commanders expanding about the same amount. You do have a rover in the back over there. That's kind of nice.
One thing to note about these kinds of maps, like 14 wind speed, right, is this balance between like scaling and spending. It's not like a 20 wind speed map where you're just like making as many wind turbines as you can possibly make and like energy converters, stuff like that, right? Making bombers. On these kinds of maps, it's a much finer line between the cost it takes to produce energy and like even the cost of accessing energy, right, becomes much higher. So I like to note like when people are putting down solars, when they're putting down energy storage, right, how fast do they get the geo constructed, right, which is huge. Like geos are so much more valuable on these lower wind speed maps, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge investment though, and you have to part of that is having the game sense to know when you can afford the several thousand, the 13,000 energy investment. Oh, that's a nice, sorry, just cutting myself off, but that's a nice scout right there. Found the Twilight before it had the energy to cloak on the southern side. With a single rascal over there. Wasn't able to kill it, but now is like completely aware of the fact that we're going for Twilights. I feel like Twilights are so underutilized.
And he's one of the few players who uses them. And look at this, look at that setup, right? He puts the Twilights in front of the static D, right? So units that are pushing in over that hill, they're gonna get EMP'd first, and then so.
What a cheeky little setup! I love that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. He's trying to defend with this high ground too over here on the left. So far, it feels like just a perfect defense. Randy has just been on top of it with setting up the concaves in the right area, making sure that the units are in position, fighting under static defense too.
Right. It's as if he makes his radars and knows when units are going to attack him.
It's one of those things you don't really think about until you have to almost have an epiphany about how useful it is, and then suddenly once it clicks, it becomes unplayable to play without it because you feel so blind and unable to win. My goodness, those incisors traded nicely against the blitzes, though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blitzes went down for 3 incisors.
Yeah.
My goodness.
He's not done finding damage either. Yeah, they're tightly packed together, right? All they need to do is just turn around once the blitzes come in to try and trade, and they just have more DPS, right?
Medium tanks rolling out to the field here, hoping to turn this battle around. Always a little bit tricky figuring out how you want to reclaim all this. Those constructors are so valuable as a vehicle commander. You only make so many of them. Easily finding their value, though, especially if they don't get sniped very frequently. And as far as games go today, this is probably one of the less aggressive ones I've seen. I would hazard a guess. It's been very, it's just the pace of vehicles is a little slower than bots, I think.
think it's the map as well, right? This I
Sure.
would consider this a pretty choky map, right? And both players seem content to split it across the river, right? Which just means you have to defend 4 choke points, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
this-
these water choke points I see misunderstood very often. Would you mind explaining these for a second?
So every unit can traverse across those, and I will, to people's credit, it's not very it doesn't really stand out, right? That is a crossing right there. You kind of have to maybe like bring up the terrain.
Yeah, the terrain map right here.
Passability, right?
There we go. You can sort of see under the water right there. That shade of green indicates that you can traverse through there. Very, very hidden choke point almost. But again, it goes back to just knowing the maps and having experience on them.
Oh, both these players have played many matches on Canis servers, so
I'm sure of it. There's no way you go through a 1v1 career without seeing this map at least a couple dozen times.
yeah, for sure. I like this composition here from our man Modulo, who is in fact in a great position, but these pounders behind these roots, man, pounders are insane against every unit.
Yep. Yeah, they're just insane, period. They're a wonderful unit. The impulse they do on those medium tanks is so dangerous. The AoE effect is subtle, but it means a lot when you're going up against big clusters of units here, where every unit is taking 5% damage, 10% damage. Doesn't seem like a lot on the bold face of it, but it adds up so quickly and so efficiently that, yeah, just like that. All those medium tanks in red down, and a whole bunch of them scuffed.
There's these incisors in the back. I mean, he has to go and collapse on this army, right? The beamer's just built, the tanks are... Oh, he's going to sneak through? Okay. All right.
Interesting. More Twilights up and available, too. Always fun to see those. They're sort of like Armada's EMP landmine that never was. Still waiting on that one. It's going to be awesome.
An EMP landmine.
Yeah. I've been pushing for the Armada EMP landmine for years. It's going to be great.
If you thought Shuris were bad.
yeah, exactly. Imagine walking into a minefield and all your Karganeth are completely paralyzed. It'd be horrible. It's that, or give me my EMP bombers back. I'll take those instead.
Did they remove those, or?
No, they reduced their effectiveness quite a lot. They're quite a bit less versatile than they once were.
Was that T2 totally arm EMP bomber?
Yeah, the Stiletto.
Stiletto, okay.
They were something of a menace on the upper echelons of team games because they were so relatively cheap and relatively fast and extremely effective. It meant that they were sort of a one-stop answer to every problem that you could encounter. They could paralyze T3 units, they could paralyze big swaths of T1 units. They could kind of just do it all, and it was totally fair that those received a little bit of a change. A reduction to their AoE, and also they just drop less projectiles, so they're quite nice.
Sorry to bring it back to this game, but there's a huge reclaim field right here behind that blue line of tanks, right? There's like standoff, right? Look at all that metal behind there. There's a con.
Let's pull up the metal vision. Boom, 3.23 thousand metal. I mean, that's a T2 transition right there worth of metal. That's exactly ginormous reclaim field. Setting up an HLT here is interesting. That's usually we don't see much investment in the heavier static defenses when you're going up against vehicles, because of course those shell shockers are just more than happy to reach out and punch past the defensive range, but apparently he feels like it's necessary here. Oh, we have resbots. Oh, and we are going to resurrect here. My goodness, 1,000 energy production is wonderful too. Yeah, I guess those wind turbine investments have been paying dividends. 3 different labs we have now.
Transition. Yeah, it's hard to afford this, so I would like to see him maybe reclaim the bot lab. He has his resbots out. He's already made them, so maybe finish that. And we're also stalling on energy a bit, so maybe we should be reclaiming this metal instead of trying to res, right?
It sure feels like it. It feels like reclaiming this. I mean, also it's not like this is in a really easily defendable location. The choke point is nice, but this would be pretty easy to punch through with medium tanks, so it feels like at least evacuating some of the metal from the very front of this wouldn't be the worst. Maybe 1,000 or so of the metal, just so that you have something. But then again, this is, I mean, basically a free army that you're getting right here, so resurrecting it is nice.
And this is the one thing you don't want to give the Cortex player is Pounders moving backwards and like you're trying to like press into Pounders that are moving backwards, right? It's just like the Warden finishes just in time. That is going to make Andy turn around, is it?
Wow.
Okay.
I guess the heavy laser tower was just barely enough. The Resbots are now more than happy to, with that HLT done building. It's going to free up a lot of energy that can resurrect these units. And my goodness, those Resbots are picking up those tanks quickly.
Yeah.
A couple of seconds per tank plus a little bit of repair time, and those are right as rain, ready to roll out. And suddenly, this is a nearly 8,000 metal army on the front line here for the Blue Commander. To be fair, though, a nearly 8,000 metal army on the front line here for the Red Commander as well. So, looking about even, but of course, those Resbots and the build power mean that this is essentially a recyclable army for the Blue Commander. Every unit that dies on the Red Commander has to be replaced.
Yeah, unless Andy transitions into bots himself, right? Which he has gone to T2. Okay.
Oh, okay. Time to eat up those T1 solar panels if you're going to go for T2 and you need to push out that T2 constructor with a quickness. You know, I'm a proponent of the destruction of all solar panels. T1 solar panels, anyway.
I see.
I like the use of these landmines, too. This is kind of nice.
They've just been recently nerfed, actually.
Really?
So,
how so?
Yeah. They had a nerf to their build time, a nerf to their energy cost, metal cost, I think, and a little slightly nerf to the damage they do. So if I'm remembering that. Hopefully Mitvid is here or someone else who can correct me in the chat, but yeah. I know they've been nerfed in like several different contexts, right?
Interesting. I had no idea. That's very cool. That's cool to know, because landmines have always been one of the most efficient but difficult to use tools that I think any commander has under their belt. The impulse, the raw damage number themselves is just phenomenal for the value that you get. But obviously, basically the end all be all for static defenses.
the tempo as well, right? It's something like a lot of times just the threat of mines is going to maybe make someone think twice about being truly aggressive when you're making like a T2 transition, so say, right? Yeah. So they have their purpose in the matchup, and they're phenomenal, right? So
this big clump of tanks up here in the midsection, the southern midsection, kind of makes me want to see those Janus get in there. Oh, we've got Bulls out too. Those do a lot of AoE as well. Oh man, these Janus tanks are gonna be huge connections.
He needs to reclaim this metal, right? It's like as soon as you're behind on tech, right? Has he made his T2 transition like in his main base?
Doesn't. Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah,
okay. He's got his T2 up and running. He hasn't made a con yet. It looks like he just barely got this lab up and running. Look at that. I love the new Quaker model, by the way. Have you gotten a chance to look at that?
Is that the
core artillery?
Is that the? Oh yeah, it looks like a siege tank.
Yeah,
right?
a little siege tank thing. It's so cool. Love the design on that. Looks like we are reclaiming, so that's good to see. Where'd those Resbots go? They must have been destroyed at some point.
Yeah, they were. He kind of moved them in front of his army for a moment.
Oh, I see. That's all it takes.
So, that was a big blunder, honestly, because we saw a reversal of the situation that just happened. Like on Modulo's side, the metal was on his side with the Resbots. Well, now it's on Andy's, right? And he's got this huge reclaim field, and there's tanks in the back line. This is not.
That's
not
interesting.
Good.
Bit of a random moment. It should be cleaned up pretty nicely, but they can pop a bunch of those E-converters, and that does hurt, especially an Armada commander that relies very heavily on the E-conversion from those wind turbines, the slightly more efficient wind turbines. But still, though, it's not going to make up the difference of all this metal reclaim on the front line. This is just way too much, and especially since it's going into T2 units, too, so it's just going to be even more efficient. Air Lab is up and running, and we do have T2 up and running now for the Blue Commander as well. Fusion Reactor starts up almost immediately. Okay. I guess Modulo a little bit unhappy with his energy production.
Yeah, it's really important, right? If you've made it to T2 and 1v1s and you're still stalling energy, you need to get the fusion up, right? Another point, a key point on this map actually is that you have access to the AGO, right? Which is huge. So now that we've entered the T2 part of the game, the first player to get the AGO up, I don't say they're going to outright win the game, right? But it's just like on a 14 win speed map, AGOs are super value, right? Insane value.
And at more production for less cost than a fusion reactor, it's basically a no-brainer. As far as efficiency values go, I mean, it's a gargantuan boost to energy production. Your whole economy can be basically doubled. Like both of these commanders have had about 1,000 energy when they were ready to go into T2. You can basically double it, and that's going to easily step you up a notch. And my goodness, Bulls are so good. I used to think bulls were so bad because I thought they looked dumb, and then I realized how good they were. I actually used them.
Remind me of those like
man.
mammoth tanks from CNC.
Yeah, yeah, they do have the same kind of vibe, don't they? With the big, like, ultra-wide chassis and the multiple segmented kind of wheel things. A big twin head.
Can we get a shot of the main bases?
Sure. Take a look. Fusion reactor coming up right here for Modulo.
He needs to reclaim those solars and the.
I agree. I feel like both of them do.
So
many solar panels still for our red commander Randy here. Where's his energy production? I guess it's just the wind turbines, isn't it? He's going for the AGO.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
there
exactly.
we go.
It's almost halfway done.
Almost.
So, and he's getting it for free, right? It's just a commander and a T2 con, right? And he's just going to be free to like cap the mexes behind him, behind the lab.
Just now getting the actual Geo up and running. Oh, that hurts. I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter too much, like with the fusion coming up and all that, but this could have been a lot more energy in the tank. Could have definitely changed a few things.
So if we like zoom out, right, we can see how the positioning of the main bases really affected how they scaled in T2, right? Andy's already has the mexes behind his base or main base capped in T2. He's got his main capped, and he's like already moved to his AGO, right? So I think just being that much farther forward gave him a better springboard into the T2 phase, right?
Yeah, that's true. Going for an anti-nuke. Never be too careful.
Yeah, that's not. That's not what you want to have happen to like 40 minutes, 30 minutes into a game.
Yeah, it's definitely burned me before. I've lost plenty of games to nuclear launch detected. Yeah. GG. Just leave the game before it even hits. It's good. It's good to put that down. It's one of those awkward ones where like you need to put that down. You 100% have to put a anti-nuke down, but finding the time and finding the metal to put into it, it feels really awkward to do, but you just have to. AGO up and running right now for Randy, and that's a huge boon to the economy. It means he basically forewent the fusion reactor. Is suffering a little bit of the energy withdrawals for it, but when the wind speeds die down, it's pretty much even. Yeah, both of these commanders, wow, actually dead even. 2.2 thousand metal, or energy, I mean. That's ridiculous.
I really like Andy's position here. He's got multiple expanding cons and consoles assisting them, right? So he's got his AGO up. All he needs to do is continue scaling energy in his main base, and he's going to be in a great spot to transition to T3 if he wants to.
He's also got that Juno. That's the name of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Firing away, trying to prevent these tanks from being obliterated. Ugh. Maybe they nerfed the landmines, but they still hurt. Watching them tear apart those heavy tanks. Ooh, the impulse on those is so brutal too.
This is so good. Finally, Modulo gets to leverage the air he's invested into, right? So he's complete air control. So now the Shuris can show up and get their value. It's like, ooh, you made the mistake of stepping onto my side of the map, right?
Yep.
But is there AA behind? He's retreating to AA, and those Jaguars don't have a negligible amount of AA either. So, I mean, he shoot Andy away for now, but I don't think he has enough T2 like on the board really to stop this many bulls, right? That is so many tanks.
Yeah, that's a lot of tanks, and those bulls are so efficient once they get up to numbers. They do just the right amount of damage to be really dangerous on their own, but once you start to scale them up into big numbers, I mean, to be fair, you pay a hefty price for a single bull tank, but once you get enough of them up and running, there's really not a lot that it feels like can stand against them. You need those really specific tools, but maybe a T3 transition will do.
Oh, yeah,
Shiva rolling out of the lab. My goodness.
This is the best unit in the game, really. Like, it's so
Shiva?
good. Oh my goodness. Like, well, maybe in the 1v1 context.
I guess so.
It's so good.
The thing about a Shiva is that it's so cheap. For a T2 unit, it's so cheap, and you get the rockets that come out of it. You've got the impulse launcher or whatever it is, the big Gauss cannon. Immediately turned around. You said, "Oh, okay, sorry. We're going to T3. We're doing an epic late game here. This is a 25-minute no rush."
Those mines almost sniped all the Jags. That would have been kind of a feast for some Shuris to show up and shut down that little contingent of tanks here. But Andy's rotating to the middle of the map, and he has a lot of T2 on the board. I don't know what his plan is with this. But
I like this move using these ticks to clear out the landmine fields. That Juno launcher just doesn't produce missiles fast enough that you can really reliably use it to clear minefields when you're pushing. I mean, unless you have a couple of them saved up.
Yeah, too.
I think it makes a lot of sense, especially as an Armada commander. I feel like it's just more cost effective and time effective, if anything, to just produce 50 ticks and send them to their doom. They're more than happy to do it. I've asked.
Yeah, ticks are pretty insane. Their line of sight, their speed, their like cheap, not cheapness. That's not the right word.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is. They're just cheap. They're inexpensive, and it doesn't.
Inexpensive.
It costs you basically the cost of a lab to produce ticks. in the late game, there's not a lot of upfront costs that you really have to pay. Oh my goodness, these heavy tanks rolling over the medium mines and dying over and over is just. It's killing me. It's killing me inside, but I guess the damage that's being done is worth it, justifiable to the blue commander to get the T3 on the field. I guess we'll see.
This still looks kind of close. Modulo still hasn't been scaling his E. If he had like maybe 2 fusions in his main and 20, 30 Resbots, like he could quickly make or had some on the board already.
Yeah,
I'd say this wasn't like a terrible spot, but just not having the T2 mexes up is huge. Like Andy's capped almost every single mex he has. T2, he's got 4.3
defense on all of them too.
Yeah, he's going T3 himself. He's got multiple fusion. Just the one almost going. So maybe a little bit behind on energy, but
he's got the fusion coming up, but he also had the A fusion for so long. Whereas this Geo, I mean, it's dead right now, but it never became an A Geo at all.
Right.
So that's, I mean, an easy 1,000 or so. Well, I guess the difference would be like close to 1,000 or so. What is it? 1,250 energy for an A Geo. So yeah, you make 950 energy more for what is relative to the cost of a fusion reactor basically nothing. It's like a third of the cost.
Yeah, well, it's going to power your T2 economy transition. You're upgrading your mexes. It's like powering those consoles, assisting your T2 cons that are upgrading your mexes. So it's just the energy transition itself kind of becomes more important than scaling metal in some ways. Like if you go far enough into a bar game, right, it's more about the AFUs, right, and the advanced converters, right?
Yeah, the E converters. Those are that's like the when you get to that ultra late game. But even just the difference in energy cost between T2 stuff and T1 stuff is massive, and that's kind of the crux of the issue, is that if you don't take the cheapest possible options for efficient energy production, you're gonna spend so much metal to get to that level that you need to be at that it's you're not gonna have any metal left over for units on the field. Shiva, very energy efficient, 23,000 energy and 1,550 metal. Feels like one of the best T3 investments you can make early on. But I will say, they tend to kill themselves a lot.
The friendly fire, I'm like gasping over here.
It's brutal.
Yeah. This is maybe one of the reasons why you really need to support the Shivas with the grunt spam. It's like when you've reached this stage of the game, T3 core, you support your Shivas with grunts, like two factory grunt production, something like that.
Something like that, to make sure that the ticks are kept out from underfoot. If you have to friendly fire a cheap unit. Don't friendly fire your expensive T3 units.
yeah. So suddenly the Shivas are attacking your own Shivas with a unit that costs 17 metal, right? And has, like, no build time production
doing way
costs,
more damage than they should. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was a nice Juno over there as well. Managed to pop all those landmines in the northern side. Yeah, the Shiva are great, and you can put them all over the map. But at the end of the day, they're not going to be able to stand up against a plethora of tools that an Armada commander has. I mean, I'm talking Starlights, Pulsars, Sharpshooters, even just good old-fashioned Bulls. I feel like regular Bulls trade fairly well against the Shiva, as long as they're not clumped up too badly and that sort of thing. They're going to trade decently, and so I feel like Shivas are almost a crutch that a lot of Cortex commanders get trapped on, and I feel like the end-all be-all is to eventually pivot into Karganeth. I think Karganeth are really where you want to be. They're going to deal with the tick spam a whole lot more efficiently. I think they're going to allow you a lot of backdooring as well, sneaking into back the behind enemy defenses and things, crawling over hills.
Oh, I can see that, but I'd say the demon is so much better at doing that because it's so much faster, right?
You know what?
And
you're absolutely right. I forget about the demon.
Oh my goodness, it's so good. If you get a demon in the back line, right, and it's like, it kind of
absolutely. No, you're 100% correct. I forget about the demon because it was such a late addition to Core T3, but it is definitely a powerhouse of damage for the Cortex Commander, and yeah, unparalleled speed too. I remember when the demon was first being proposed, like it was still in its trial phase, and it could travel underwater as well. I'm pretty sure Supreme Isthmus has never seen the terror of 50 demons, or has never felt the fear of like 50 demons popping up out of the ocean and just winning the game immediately.
The grizzled bar players, they've been around forever, you know.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Back in my day, I saw horrors like you wouldn't believe. Demons arising from the ocean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think one of the things I appreciate about Core T3 is that they're all very all the units in Core T3 can kind of do a little bit of everything. Like Shiva are sort of siege units, but they're also really good anti-spam. Karganeth are really good assault units, but they're also good. They have the terrain traversability, so they can do some. They have I guess like. You can make plays with them, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Catapults, of course, have their long ranginess, but they're also, again, really good anti-spam. There's a lot of, like, Core is kind of built around this crux of being able to sort of, everything can kind of do a little bit of everything. I think Armada struggles in that sense, where the only one that comes to mind is the Razorback, is, like, great anti-spam and great single target, but, like, things like, for instance, the Thor is, like, a big beefcake, but you get it surrounded, and like you can push those around with ticks, and suddenly it's a little bit weird. We've got some commentation going on in the back line. It's also a little surprising to see T2 lab production as well as T3 production here. We've got Banishers coming up.
It's an interesting choice. One nice thing about this having the T2 vehicle, or bots rather, is like you have the radar and the jammer vehicle that I think there's a few of them moving across the map right now, but your Shivas need to be supported with vision or radar, right? Like, that's one thing the grunts provide them, but even better is having the jammer, T2 radar and jammer with your Shivas. So
yeah, because at the end of the day, they aren't an assault unit; they're a siege unit, and I feel like that's kind of. I feel like because they're so cheap, and everyone kind of reaches for them, but it's important to remember the distinction between those is that the Shiva are not actually really well suited for brawling on the front lines. They work well because they're T3, so they do a lot of damage, but really Karganeth are where you want to go because they can actually precisely take down those units, and they're going to target units without necessarily killing all of your own units in the same friendly fire blast. I guess the comparison that I would reach for is that Shiva are sort of like the sledgehammer, and Karganeth feel a lot more like the scalpel.
I do enjoy some Karganeths. The mobility itself just feels like so strong in that T3 phase, right? It's like if you thought dealing with like what the T2 spider bots and all that was annoying, it's like Shiva's like climbing around on rocks behind her main and trying to kill it.
Yeah.
It's just.
And on some maps that can be really difficult to deal with too. Like what is a cold place? That's one of those where any sort of terrain climbable unit can really take advantage. Or Onyx Cauldron too is another one.
There is a T2 or excuse me, like a long range artillery.
I was looking at that.
Yeah.
That is interesting. We've got this LRPC firing away at the AGO here. There's no build power to save it or anything, so 60% already and falling. My goodness. Shiva are amphibious, so no trouble crossing through the water in the midsection right there. They actually do pop up right in the back line. We've got Lich coming up. Uh-oh.
Really strong. Andy's stalling on energy right now, so these what is it, pulsars aren't really
Starlights.
Starlights aren't really shooting that much, are they?
Yeah, no, they're definitely hurting for energy.
Yeah,
it's these nuclear bombers that he's building. 46,000 energy apiece. More than double the cost of a fusion reactor in energy to build one of these bad boys. Usually when I see a nuclear bomber, my mind jumps to trying to snipe a commander. Modulo hiding in the strangest corner up on the northern side right there. Going to be keeping himself safe. Oh no, Starlights have been caught over here. Bottom right-hand side, Starlights have all been forced into retreat without the support of their bull tanks. Ooh.
Yeah,
that was a really efficient trade.
This is like kind of the last little push from the game. These atomic bombers gonna drop a little bomb here on the Shiva, shut this down.
Trying their very best to be as efficient as possible. Air forces are out on the field though. There's a couple of T1 fighters available for the blue commander, and without T2 support, it feels like we're headed for a rough situation here. You do not want to lose these bombers cheaply. They're so expensive.
They are expensive. I think Andy did just such a great job extending the use of his T2 units beyond maybe what you normally see in like this late game. Like Modulo was on T3 and he just leveraged like the tools he had, the starlights and the ticks, right, to like extend the life of these bulls. Like all these, he had so many bulls, right? So it's just really,
I see what you're saying. You're 100% right.
Really strong play. And just being super annoying, right? Like that's kind of, look at this, starlights just kind of rolling in unprotected.
Yeah, there's not a lot that can stand up. Like once you get enough of those scaled up, Modulo throws in the towel. GG is called. Those starlights are so pesky, blasting down your T3. My goodness. An epic T3 late game in a good old-fashioned pro-level 1v1. Randy ending up with a whopping 6 fusion reactors by the end of this game.
Battle ended.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Scaling E is important.
It sure is. Very cool.
That's up.
You know, it's interesting because that game wasn't really won by any one decisive, definitive action. It felt like it was just kind of Randy making slightly better moves and slightly better decisions. And I think like what you said about the extending the lifetime of those T2 units is a really good point. Like building the right units to make those efficient rather than just giving up those units and going into T3 himself. I noticed Randy started the T3 lab and then never made a T3 unit out of it. And then just disassembled it. So clearly he was thinking along the same lines that you were, just maybe I can just make those more efficient.
For sure. And it just, I mean, a testament to the man's experience and skill, right? He just navigates all parts of the game kind of fluidly, right? So it's just a strong player all around, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, perfect time for me to exit. So I think, was that the finals or is there another round?
I believe that was the semifinals. I think we're headed into the grand finals coming up right now. It's going to be, who is it going to be? Let me see. Let me check in fact, I'll show this to you, the lovely viewer. Thank you. To viewers like you. Thank you. It looks like it's going to be in the grand finals for today. Randy, with that win, managed to pull ahead. 2-0 over Modulo. So Randy pulls ahead into the lead as far as the tournament goes. Randy is going to be going up against user 001JA. And depending on that match, either Randy or user 001JA will be heading forward in the tournament. I believe there's also an outcome where Modulo wins 2-0 and ties with Randy. So it's going to be between Modulo and Alt F4 Ubivator and Randy and user 001JA. So there's a couple of really important matches coming up here. But yeah, it's the grand finals. It's going to be pretty cool to see.
Sick. Dude, bar Fight Night is awesome. So shout out to Neb to like on organizing and like running it or building it up. So it's been cool to see. And thank you, of course, for stepping up and casting it. So it's just nice to see like a confluence of great players, casters, and organizers all like doing their magic. Right?
Yeah, I'm thrilled to see this all taking off and being becoming a community event. It's super cool to see.
Right? We are treated as the viewer to these fantastic matches with our Andy, right? So
absolutely,
all about it.
Alrighty, sir. Well, thanks for jumping in. Thanks for the special treat, your expertise in the 1v1 category.
You're most welcome. Good luck, Brightworks, and I'll be watching some of the finals, I'm sure. So, cheers.
Sounds awesome. See you later, mate.
Later.
And there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed your special treat for today. A wonderful opportunity to speak with somebody who is much more familiar with the 1v1 scene than I am, and definitely well versed in the way of the the way of the 1v1 fighter as we head into our grand finals. So let's take a look right here at exactly what we got going on. So Heading into the grand finals, it's going to be Pro Randy versus 011JA, the user of all time, going to be going up against Randy, who we just watched fighting against Modulo in an epic late game T3 series of 1v1, which is, to say the very least, impressive, because I feel like we never get to see T3 in 1v1, so it's really cool. It also means that as we move forward here, it's going to be important because, who is it? Modulo is going up against Ubervader, and depending on the results of that match, if Modulo manages to sweep Ubervader 2-0, there's a chance that him and Randy end up tied. And I mean, I'm not the one who runs this tournament, but I feel like if two players end up tied, they have to have a finals. Like, they have to have a, you know, a winner takes all 1v1, you know, like that just feels correct. Just feels correct. Wow, we have the Ron Swanson in the chat. That's wonderful. Thank you. Glad to see you. Alrighty, and what better map, my goodness, what better of a map to start off our grand finals with than Faster Than Light, where apparently user 001 spawning on the southern side is going to be spawning as an Armada commander. Good to see, of course, because Armada, yeah, I mean, do I really need to bring it up again? But Armada is so fun. It's so fun. I'm so thrilled to play Armada. I love playing Armada. And whenever I get to see him in a tournament, I get a little bit excited about it. Spawning on the other side here is, of course, Randy, who's also playing as Armada. Wow. I can't think of the last time I've seen a grand finals that didn't have a Cortex player. Pro Randy and user 001 both going to be playing as Armada in our very finals of today's Bar Fight Night number 19. Phew. What a mouthful. We have some winners, by the way, from the betting. Congratulations to all the winners out there. If you're not betting yet, feel free to put some of those channel points. Put your money where your mouth is. Bet those channel points. They're free to acquire and free to use. So don't feel bad about using them. Oh, Randy's pulling it out again. He's pulling out the build of all time, the Air Lab Armada start. Okay. This is interesting. This is the same exact build that he used in that last game against Modulo, I believe it was Faster Than Light game. The first game that Modulo disconnected from. The interesting thing here is we're seeing it again. So if user 001 was paying attention, then he's going to be aware of this build. But look, it's exactly the same exact build. So timings wise and all the rest of it, it's going to be perfect. So you can see the Armada commander going ahead and reclaiming while the energy is depleted, and then putting the energy into the Banshee when it's built up right here. So there we go. You can see the 200 or so energy is going to be dropped in, and the Banshee will be sent on its way. And you can see it'll be queued immediately across the map to go try and snipe some of those metal extractors. User 001 going into vehicles here is quite interesting. Not going to have a lot of options to deal with air forces, so needs to have an anti-air turret up and running as soon as it's possible to scout this. But for the time being, has no clue about the Banshee. Oh, just barely got vision of it. Oh, that was barely enough vision of it, but he did see the Banshee. We should have an anti-air tower coming up immediately. No anti-air tower yet. Oh, right in front of the laboratory. Yikes. Anti-air tower comes up and running, but the Banshee gets across the lab, and it is going to manage to snipe down 2 of those metal extractors before the AA turret has a chance to even fire away at it. Oh, no. The Banshee play is at it again. Another Banshee up in the air here as well, and it looks like Randy is just about to reclaim that laboratory. He needs to finish up the constructor first before reclaiming it. Trying to get that constructor out on the field and then put a vehicle or bot lab down in order to try and deal with all this. There we go. Reclaim the lab, and sure enough, go ahead and go into another laboratory. Just about to overflow some metal, so we are going to need to see that lab coming up pretty quickly, but he has to move the commander into position. Worth overflowing the metal to make sure that this area is nicely denied. And just like that, the constructor is going to move forward to try and snipe some of these metal extractors. Couple of options you can go for here. One of the weird ones is you could obviously go into an air lab of your own and produce fighters and start counteracting all of this play, but it'd be really, really weird to do that because you're essentially hard countering a build order that you're gambling that your opponent is going to go for, and if you don't end up winning that gamble, then suddenly you end up with fighters in the air countering literally nothing. Banshee up in the air, coming back for seconds. Oh, this is annoying. This is super annoying for the blue commander. Finally gets this mech back online, and right as he does, the Banshee is back to try and kill it all. Nice micro right here, by the way, from Randy as well. Going to go ahead and take down this set of metal extractors. Second Banshee perusing the front gates right here, trying to find an opportunity, making sure that no units escape out of here. Anti-air missile truck will start firing away right now. The Banshee unable to snipe the T1 constructor. Missile truck will shoo away those Banshees. Forcing out the missile truck, denying the metal extractors, all of that is really, really nice value. And of course, expanding with the constructor on the high ground here is quite nice as well. We need to start considering putting down an LLT first, though. Because of the presence that you get on the map so early from this expansion right here, it means that suddenly you end up in with a situation where putting down an LLT guarantees you get all 4, whereas if you risk it, like we saw in that other game, the commander can just go ahead and build a LLT up here, and it'll clear all that out. As long as you have one LLT, it'll defend all of these, but if you have none LLT with left metal extractor, you'll be pretty much hung out to dry. A solar coming up right now for the red commander, looking to invest all of his energy into building one of those solar panels, but of course, a single solar panel this early in the game is basically a 1.33x improvement to the overall energy income, so it's a pretty massive boost. Here's the Blitz tank rolling around trying to find some value here as well, but obviously Randy is more than happy to tuck behind his bunker of his little LLT and his radar, solar panel, all that good stuff, because he's already got the mexes on the high ground here that he's more than happy to utilize. Anti-air tower coming up and running, and the LLT, again, it wasn't fast enough. This is an obvious flaw in this build, because the commander is so able to build this anti-air tower and consistently manages to shut down the LLTs and whatnot over here. It feels like rushing the LLT is not a bad idea, just to make sure that there's no way for the commander to make any sort of a play back at this. Now, obviously, you could build this anti-air tower on the low ground here, so it doesn't completely shut down that possibility. It does mean, however, that once you get the mexes up and running, there's not going to be a great way to deny them. Either way, though, 3 free mexes is nothing short of a huge advantage for Randy. User 001 is expanding and eventually gets these mexes up and online, so the question becomes, was the damage in the early game from those Banshees sniping the metal extractors more damage than the metal extractors, the cost to build these metal extractors, and the amount of freedom that User 001 has had on the map to just move forward and claim mexes as well? Well, with the A-Solars coming online, the energy production won't be an issue anymore for the red commander. He'll finally have enough enough energy rather to start producing these units, and finally also start producing a whole bunch more mexes. Randy gonna move northward here to try and claim the metal extractors on this northern side, and I think also expand southward, yeah, with a couple of constructors. Cool. Banshee, once again, looking for an opportunity, but this anti-air missile truck is more than sufficient to shoo away one of those light anti-air gunships. Light gunship, the Banshee. 135 metal, 2,300 energy. For I believe it's about 400 health. 400 to 500 health is, I mean, nothing. That's really nothing as far as HP is concerned. Like, that is, it's no wonder that the light anti-air is more than enough to shoo away those Banshees. But alright, build power is up and running, and so what are we going to do about it? One thing we can, of course, do is just continue, building those solar panels, and it helps a lot. Those solar panels are worth quite a lot. You can see these constructors, so a little bit of quick math for you. Each of these has 80, so 8, 16, 24. Where each of these build turrets has 200. So basically all of these have the same amount of build power as this. So this basically doubled the build power by putting this construction tower down. When you think about it like that, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, this is a huge investment, but also a great investment. Blitz shot down by the LLT over on this side, and it looks like Randy is gearing up to try and contest this hillside over on this part. I wouldn't mind seeing an LLT on this high ground right here. I think it provides you with a lot of vision, and also it's out of range of the LLT on the low ground. You can get a lot of value out of things that way. Randy moving forward right now, building a radar tower. You know, I wouldn't have minded a D-gun on that LLT just to spook the blue commander and force out more static defense. Solar panels coming up right now, and Randy's just going to back off, though. I guess content to leave that side open and exposed. Constructors here are going to deconstruct the Blitz however they can. Oh, a nice micro right there. Splits off the constructors, so one of them becomes the target. The healthier one becomes the target, and the damaged one does not become the target anymore. Suddenly, with a nice way to, clean up those constructors and allow them to continue to live while the reinforcements do push forward to try and push from the southern side. So you have this choke point, right? One of the things that I feel like I'd like to see a little bit more is the use of walls. Like, it feels like we don't see walls utilized very often on these choke points, but it'd make a lot of sense to do essentially something like this, where you build, anybody who's played a tower defense game will know exactly how this works, but you build a wall like this, and you leave one little hole in the center, and then you build a wall behind that forces the units to basically zigzag back and forth like this through your base. That's kind of the most efficient way to make those poor units suffer as long as possible from your static defenses. So ideally, that's how the walls will be used, but in practice, that's not how we see them utilized very often. This is great, though. Pawn's running around, and Pro Randy is continuing to put on the pressure right here. 34 metal per second up against 28. 459 energy per second up against 505. So the Blue Commander with a slight energy production advantage, but that's largely because of a huge investment in T1 solar panels. So it's more efficient production from the Red Commander, but it's higher production from the Blue Commander, if that makes any sense. Blitzes here, trying their best. The pawns are sufficient to counter blitzes, actually. The only thing the blitz has over the pawn is the fact that it's quite a bit speedier. Once that goes away, though, there's not a lot you can do. Build power increasing in the backline here. We are actually overflowing metal at this point, so... yeah, Red Commander needs to amp up production. I think going for more Centurion than 1 in 100 is, you know, might be a worthwhile investment. At the very least, going ahead and setting up a metal storage so that we're not actually just losing the metal to the front line wouldn't be the worst idea. User 001 pushing forward right now, but there are quite a few LLTs over here. Sir. Phew. 22% on that Blue Commander, my goodness. User 001 not paying attention for a split second and almost lost the game because of it. I think microing the units back at home, but forgot about the fact that the Commander is also how you win or lose a game beyond all reason. LLT's falling, Janus firing, medium tanks blasting, and the whole base is crumbling right here as the pawns come racketing in. I don't know what racketing is, but anyway, they come running in. How's that? That's a little bit better. Solar panels here are going to be closing up as they do a little bit of damage. It's one of the problems with the T1 solar panels is just that if they take any amount of damage at all, they do close up. Janus tank firing away here. I'd love to see this reclaimed. No reason to have that Janus friendly fire all your units. Oh, but it looks like User 001 is going to throw in the towel. Pro Randy with overwhelming pressure, with a lovely control over the map, and with a really refined build, will take the game number 1. Busting out that air build once and again to show off against the Blue Commander here, and I love it. Wouldn't be surprised if we see that build refined and perfected by everybody in the community shortly after this, because it's a hilarious one, and I think there's a lot of room for it to be super, super useful. Very cool. As far as the graphs go, yeah, that's kind of a telling story. You can see actually, that's the metal extractors coming online right there, so that's the advantage that Randy got from it. Eventually, it was overtaken as the Commander expanded forward with those metal extractors through the northern side and out towards the Geo. But eventually, the control that Randy had from the extra metal income meant that he could scale forward and just maintain the lead after that. Cool stuff. Very, very cool stuff. Canis River, apparently where we're going to be fighting next. I'm going to take a big sip of my drink. And you guys have probably got some money to win. Who won big? Post your spoils in the chat. Let me know. You get no warning for reclaiming enemy. That's true. That's true. If you reclaim the enemy's lab, then they won't know about it. This is cool to see. We're going to see how Pro Randy plays Canis River differently. Ooh, okay. Already spawning in a slightly different spot here. Man, the lemonade is good, but it burns. It's so acidic. I can't stop drinking it. It burns so good. Here's another ASMR moment for you. Enjoy. Oh, that was good. That was really good. Does anybody remember back when AMC, the movie theater, was doing, for whatever reason, they decided to do like an ASMR commercial, so it was all like, it was like popcorn popping, and then it was like a cup being filled up with soda and like ice clinking in or something like that. Well, for whatever reason, right around that time, I was like watching a lot of movies or whatever, so I ended up memorizing it, and so at some point I could like do that entire commercial from memory. Not sponsored by Coca-Cola, but hey, if you'd like to reach out, feel free. User 001, going to be playing as Armada on the northern side. Looks like Randy is going to be playing as Core on the southern side. Spawning a lot closer to the Geo is interesting. Obviously, putting your base closer to the Geo means you can get to it quicker, you can build it quicker, you can have 300 free energy every single second going back to your commander a little bit quicker. It also means when you go for an A Geo, you're a little bit closer to the explosion, the imminent nuclear explosion. Well, it's not really a nuclear explosion, it's just kind of like a pressure explosion? I don't know. I don't know how geothermal explosions work, but anyway. Whatever kind of explosion it is that an advanced geo does, all I can tell you is it's big and it's dangerous, and if your base is right next to it while the geothermal explodes, you're going to be in a rough way. And we've seen already the LRPC strat, where the LRPC was built over here and fired away towards the AGO over on this side. That was great. That was very effective, and with all the static defense to keep that safe, it makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that coming up and often, a lot more. Many might not know that LLTs get 150% damage modifier towards comms. That's a really good point. That is a really good point. Yeah, commanders actually, it's worth mentioning that commanders take a lot more damage from LLTs than normally LLTs would do. It's why in the early game, commanders walking into LLTs is so dangerous. A lot of wind turbines coming up for the Cortex commander right here. Not surprising to see from the Armada commander, but the Cortex commander going into a lot of solars or a lot of wind turbines, pardon me, is a little bit interesting. Cortex wind turbines cost a little bit more at 45 metal per pop. The Armada one's costing 37, so slightly cheaper. You can see they're just a little bit thinner. They've kind of got that skinnier neck to them. They're 196 HP. I wonder if core wind turbines are more. Not a substantial amount. Taking the back line. This is so frustrating. There we go. Laser fired between the two wrecks of the wind turbines here will kill the tick. Definitely very, very frustrating, though. Randy gonna have to rebuild the wind turbines. Didn't lose the metal extractor, luckily. And does still have the build power. LLT coming up here. And we're gonna go for... looks like a little bit more of a greedier build. We're going for quite a few more constructors. We've gone for 2 constructors, and I think we're gonna have a 3rd coming out very shortly. Whereas the blue commander has gone for just the single constructor and is building little clusters of wind turbines here. Neither commander are expanding super aggressively, but both commanders going for slightly more greedy builds. Yeah, building the LLTs just to be safe. That's not necessarily a greedy build, but going for this A Geo so quickly definitely is, or regular Geo rather. 13,000 metal it does cost to build one of these geothermals, so it definitely takes a long time. You have to put basically your entire energy economy into it. Which is why in the early game it can be very expensive to do. And it's why these LLTs make a lot of sense, but of course LLTs take a little bit of energy to fire, so you have to be careful. If you, again, you put all your energy into this Geo, it's great, you're going to have a huge economy in the early game, but if the enemy, for instance, attacked you with 4 pawns right now, suddenly you'd have no energy for any of your LLTs that you spent so much metal on. You'd have no energy for them to fire. The single construction turret working on this is lovely because, of course, it means that you're not going to be horribly energy stalled the entire time. And here we go. The pawn's running forward right now, looking for value, trying to find it. Ticks have been scouting the area relentlessly, and it looks like Randy's going to expand with his commander, actually. Okay. Not bad. Yeah, we need to stop building the the Geo so the LLT can work. We're going essentially all in on the geothermal at this point, which is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it does mean that you're going to be in a really strange position. Mexes go down. Suddenly the metal production is very, very low. The geothermal, yeah, we don't have enough metal to actually put into the geothermal. Oh no. Oh no, aggression is good. Gonna have to reclaim these units right here, yeah. Reclaiming the pawn, reclaiming the tick, reclaiming all of it in order to funnel it back into the geothermal. What a massive gambit to get this geothermal up and running. Will it be enough to pay off everything? The big determinant is the fact that the geothermal basically sets you up for the rest of the game. Like there's no more energy scaling that we have to worry about right here. The tick up against the metal extractor going to be covered by the thing it's killing in order to succeed here. LLT will be sufficient defense to keep these nice and neatly tucked away. A couple of mesas waddling their way across the map here as well. Now we're in a situation where the red commander is overflowing a ton of metal. Or a ton of energy, pardon me. I don't know if it was worth it. You can see the energy per second is a massive advantage right now for the red commander. He's got 56% energy advantage over the blue commander, but of course, that extra 6 metal per second coming into the blue economy is going to be massive. That's an extra mace every 30 seconds or so. Extra pawns even quicker than that, and extra ticks even faster than those. Randy just naked expanding with the commander. Okay, well, it's risky. It's very risky, but you know what? With the commander expanding, it's not like that's going to be taken down very easily right here. It means we are going to start building more and more metal. User 001 not hesitating to expand either, though. We do have the construction bots moving out here. We've got multiple construction bots expanding all at the same time, setting up static defenses as well, trying to make sure that this front line is always expanding. And that is quite an army here. We've got the grunts and we've got aggravators to defend here. The it looks like the little plants have absorbed some of the rockets. Not sure how that works, but sure. Grunt's trying to dip into combat, but also micro around so that those plasma bots can't get a good connection. The aggravators firing away here is nice as well. Those rocket bots are going to be very good against the mazes here, which are relatively slow. Slow enough that the aggravators have a chance of actually hitting them. Pawns not so much, as well as, or as long as they're decently microed. I get dizzy from Legion wins. They spin so fast. That's pretty funny. Those Legion wins do really spin pretty quick. I can't blame you whatsoever. You know what? This is a really decent fight. Yeah, the Red Commander Randy taking a wonderful fight right here on the southern side. Managing to blast down a whole bunch of these construction, or rather a whole bunch of these assault units. That's what those are called. Maces, the wonderful little medium plasma. Are they actually medium? They might be light, aren't they? Yeah, light plasma bot. They've got 1,000 HP, but they're light, apparently. I don't know. Somehow that's how the math adds up. Build power coming up in the base. The blue commander is still maintaining a metal advantage, but also now creeping up on the energy advantage. So the problem is, of course, if you go for the energy advantage first, you don't have enough metal to build anything afterwards. Not unless you have the E-converters to turn that energy into metal. Whereas if you go for the metal advantage first, you can just build more energy production. And that's, you know, at the end of the day, that's kind of all it really takes. Look at this, these wind turbines here, for instance. If I were to select half of these wind turbines right now, maybe a few less. I'm trying to get it to about 500. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty good. About 500 metal, but producing about 200 energy, right? So nearly the same cost as the fusion reactor. Oh no. User 001 moves in for the D-gun. Boom goes the geothermal and all the energy production. Oh no. I like that move right there from the blue commander. Obviously, it means the blue commander is very low in HP. Those LLTs were in position to blast that commander down specifically, and 31% HP means user 001 needs to be in full retreat. He's headed back, but there's grunts to intercept. Oof. It was a risky gambit, but it does pop a huge portion of the energy economy right here for the red commander. We can rebuild, of course, and there's going to be plenty of opportunities to do so, but user 001, yeah, trying desperately to keep this commander alive. Uh-oh. The grunts jump on top of the commander. The rocket bots are firing away as well. 12%. Boom goes the blue commander, and Randy manages to punish the blue commander for being a little too greedy, going for the D-gun on the Geo that was protected by the LLTs. Oh, what a cool way to end that match right there, as Randy manages to get the payback for the commander snipe. Had enough energy in the form of the solar panels and the wind turbines, and it just wasn't at the right moment. I think if the blue commander had waited for a stall in the wind speed, so that there wasn't nearly enough energy for these wind turbine, or for these LLTs, and more importantly the lab to produce, maybe he could have gotten away with it. But at the end of the day, it's going to be Randy who takes the victory 2-0. Very, very nice. Very, very nice indeed. Now, that was a relatively quick series between both of those games, so I do believe we're going to have an opportunity to go check some other ones. But it does mean that Randy pulls ahead into the lead, so I believe that means we have our winner. We'll have to wait for the final, what do you call it? The final, final tally. The final count. But that was wonderful. Let's take a look at this game, though. This is Alt F4 Ubivator versus Modulo, I believe. Yep. 3 minutes and 31 seconds into this game means, of course, we're pretty much right into the beginning. Skipping past the very earliest game and heading straight to a pawn, blasting apart the backline right here, and my goodness. On an absolute tear, this pawn taking down wind turbines and metal extractors and all sorts of stuff. We've got 4 constructors in the backline, my goodness. That's quite a slew of constructors available right here from the blue commander. Modulo slowly expanding forward with the commander. Very low on funds at the moment. Needs desperately to reclaim a whole bunch of the stuff around here. Yeah, there we go. The Khan is going to reclaim some of these bodies at the very least. At the very least paying... Oh, alright, never mind. Overwhelming authority from Alt F4 means that Modulo throws in the towel. GG is called. And the blue commander goes up in thermonuclear smoke. What a quick game. 4 minutes and 39 seconds into the game, and I didn't even get a chance to watch the entire thing. But just like that, those two commanders do end up finishing off their series. And I'm guessing that was the second game. Is that, yeah, that's him leaving right there. So I guess we'll hop on in to Korkovel versus Pooman. Should be interesting. Should be very interesting. There we go.
Battle started.
Pooman versus Korkovel. Looks like a good old-fashioned core... Oh no, pardon me. An arm v core. Arm v arm. I don't know what I'm talking about. Trying to guess from the symbols on top while they're speeding around, it's pretty difficult. Lightning turret right here, firing away right now. The Dragon's Claw pop-up lightning turret, doing a great job, actually. Yeah, not mad about that whatsoever. That Dragon's Claw is doing a phenomenal job of blasting down all these units. Doing a great deal of work right here. We also have the Constructor setting up another one. It'll be ready in about 35 seconds or so. Resbot's headed in this direction, and both of these commanders are eager to just go ahead and get as many units as they can out to the front line. It's a good old-fashioned brawl. We've got a bunch of T1 garbage. We've got like pawns and grunts and stuff like that. We've got Centurions and heavier units as well, thugs and blitzes and all sorts of things. Looks like an entirely resurrected army right here, mostly resurrected. My goodness. The blue commander making great use of this geothermal over here. The red commander, not so much. Geothermal unclaimed. Looks like we do have a constructor heading in that direction. Eventually going to be able to reclaim it. Not going to be able to get there in time. Using that extra 300 energy per second to reclaim, or to resurrect rather, all of these vehicles. It's a lot of medium tanks. That is 16 medium tanks coming in at a whopping 3,600 metal. What a messy composition here. Yeah. Can't help but wonder if reclaiming this metal and going into T2 wouldn't be a wiser option. Getting that T2 up and running essentially allows you to... You can think of it like expanding, right? It's sort of the same as... Oh, that was a beautiful Janus connection. You can think of it kind of like expanding your economy, right? Just claiming metal extractors, except every one that you claim is actually you're claiming 3 more. Beamer turret's doing a great job. Whittling down these units right here, these medium tanks. Lightning turret, of course, also doing a great deal of work. Oh, just barely goes down. To the very last shot from that medium tank, it just barely went down. Ooh, 1% HP on that stout. Barely stays alive. Oh, never mind. Goes back within range of the beamer turret and dies. Not too bad. Constructors are found right here, by the way, from a whole bunch of medium tanks from the red commander. Yeah, nice. I like this little scout craft we're sending around all over the place. Cool beans. Very, very nifty to see indeed. One of the things I wish we could see a little bit more of, though, is just some good old-fashioned air shenanigans. We got a whole bunch of them from earlier with Pro Randy on FTL going for that build. Janus tanks, I feel like doing more friendly fire damage here than anything else. One thing that's worth pointing out, though, is these tanks are not being microed, and it's to their benefit. Units that are moving around have a harder time aiming. These tanks have no problem aiming, as they aren't moving. They're basically just a static defense at this point. And for what it's worth, they're doing a wonderful job of it. Medium tanks battling it out on the high ground here. Eventually going to be caught by the medium tanks from the blue commander and shut down. Centurion also waddling in that direction. What a reclaim field. Suddenly clock, oh my goodness, 8.29 thousand metal available on the field right here. I thought it might be a couple thousand. That is nearly a T, I mean, that's a T2 transition and a half right there. You can go ahead and go for a T2 lab, a T2 fusion. You could probably go for a couple of T2 units too. Like that is more than enough metal to win the game with. And it looks like, oh, we're gonna resurrect here. I don't like that move at all. We've already got enough energy production to go into T2. I think the red commander needs to bite the bullet and go into T2 vehicles or bots, doesn't matter, either one. Make that decision so that you can get those T2 economy up and running, because as it stands right now, it doesn't make any sense to stick around on T1 when you have this much metal available for the reclaim here. Medium tanks pushing forward right now. Corcovel, doing a good job. I like these medium tank run-bys. I think they're... Here's the thing, is they're not as efficient as, say, a tick running by, but you're not going to find that opportunity this late into the game, so it's basically the best that you're going to be able to do. So I think bearing that in mind, it's not the end of the world. Resbot's picking up this comp, and I mean, it's not, again, it's not the end of the world. These Resbots picking up these tanks is not terrible. It means you have more units to put out on the front. It denies your opponent the opportunity to go for T2. But my goodness, look at this advantage right here. Yeah, Corcovel has got a serious advantage across the board. There we go. Looks like we are going to start reclaiming at this point. T2 lab. Yep. T2 lab up and running, and we're still reclaiming, which means, of course, we're going to have quite a lot of metal. We need to start up that T2 constructor and maybe some consoles, maybe some bulls, anything to use this massive waste of metal here. Yeah, that is a gigantic influx of metal right now from the red commander. It sucks that we're losing this metal. We're just overflowing hundreds and hundreds of metal. But the fact of the matter remains that as long as this metal isn't going back to the enemy, it's actually better than not having it yourself, right? Obtaining some of this metal is better than obtaining none of this metal. Mauser coming out of the lab here. We do have the T2 coming up as well, or already come up. Rushing out the T2 metal extractors is obviously ideal. Mauser, I wonder what we're going to use the Mauser for, actually. They're kind of a precision tool meant to break down specific static defense structures, and I feel like we're not really at a point where that's efficient enough yet this game. Maybe this left-hand side right here. Popping these beamer turrets and any of these lightning turrets might be useful too. Lightning turrets left, right, and center, blasting down the medium tanks. Oh man, they're getting so much value here. Can't be mad about that at all. Nicely done. Static defense is holding strong over on this side. Meanwhile, Pooman, still on T1, still producing both of the most expensive T1 units that he possibly can. Meanwhile, the red commander has been slowly stepping up to T2. It feels like a little bit of a waste right now. Yeah. Feels like this is a little bit of a waste of time not upgrading these to T2 a lot quicker. We do have a console available at the very least, so it's going to upgrade these a little bit faster. We also are going to go for the AGO, which is cool to see. Oh man, we would have had an extra 4,000 metal though if we had built a metal storage and actually held on to all that metal from the midsection here. Definitely a little bit of a blunder. We've got some idle constructors as well. Latching those onto a constructor that's actually doing something is oftentimes best bet. Mauser pushing with this are doing a lot of damage as well, contributing a lot of just extra long-range firepower. Making sure your units have the firepower on the front line that they need. Uh-oh. The Resbots on the southern side. We've got tanks. Dog 1 is open his raiding with a party of 12 raiders. Welcome in, raiders. Welcome to the match. This is the grand finals of the Beyond No Reason Fight Night 19. Welcome to the party. I think it's too late for betting, but you're welcome to put your bet in chat, even though you won't be rewarded any bar bucks. Can someone tell me what those stats stand for? Are you talking about on the right-hand side? Sure, I'll run through them really quickly. I know I'm 3 minutes behind right here. Oh, killer D-guns, sorry. Gotta appreciate the D-guns when they happen. Corcovel with some beautiful D-gunnery right there. The stats on the right-hand side are as follows. The top one is metal per second. It's the metal production that each of these commanders have. After that is energy per second. Same thing. Then you have metal produced and energy produced. Corcovel taking the lead, by the way. And that's the total value, so the total amount of metal and energy that you produced in the game. After that, you've got army value, which is the total amount of value of any army unit that you have on the field. And then defense value, which is any static defenses that you have on the field. And then you have damage, which is, again, the total number of damage that you've done across all of your units, across all time, across all space. It's very, very good. It's very useful. That readout can give you at a glance a very precise look at exactly what a battle is looking like. And for instance, in this case, a massive overwhelming advantage for the Red Commander. Delicious. Delicious lemonade. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The grand finals have concluded. And I have news. Our grand finalist for Bar Fight Night number 19, taking the cake, taking the first place prize, taking home all the guts and all the glory. A commander, of course, that goes by the name of Pro Randy, clocking in at 4 wins, 0 losses, and 0 ties. A perfect sweep of 4.0. The book holes of 4.0 and a points difference of +8. Pro Randy managed to take the lead, maintain the lead, and obtain the victory. Alt F4, Ubivator going to be coming in second place right here with a win-loss ratio of 2 wins, 0 losses, and 2 ties. We also have User 001 coming in third place, very, very closely coming in third place at 2.5 relative to 3. Gonna come in at 2 wins, 1 loss, and 1 tie, with a score of 2.5 and then a book holes of 4.5. So slightly higher book holes, but coming in a little bit under what was needed in order to tie out against Ubivator. Very nicely done. So those are our leaders, our top 3: Pro Randy, Ubivator, and User 001 JA, or Ya. Not sure how you're supposed to pronounce it. Wonderful stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks a ton for enjoying this with me. As many of you are, I'm sure, aware, oftentimes on Saturdays, in fact, from now on for all Saturdays, from 12 to 4 PDT, I run my live stream, and now I'm going to be running it on the official main channel as well, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. The break happens right after the Bar Fight Night is done. It's about a 30-minute break. Stream comes right back on. We're going to play some games, we're going to have some shenanigans, and we're going to be enjoying each other's company. We're going to be having a lovely time together. It'll be a treat. It'll be a blast. I'm sure you guys are going to love it. And if you'd like to see more of that, you're more than welcome to follow. I think it's follow on Twitch, right? Isn't that how you do it? I think that's how you do it. Pretty sure that's how you do it. In the meantime, I'm going to go get a sandwich, and I'm going to let the clock run down because, of course, I'm 3 minutes into the future for you guys. That way, when I come back right at 12 o'clock on the dot, we'll be able to start up nice and live so that we can have a nice fun time interacting, having a glorious time, spending some moments celebrating Bar Fight Night and playing some awesome games of Beyond All Reason. Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks a ton, everybody. Welcome all the Raiders, and I hope you enjoy the VOD, the vid, all the rest of it. Any other announcements I need to make? Other than that, I think I just wish that all of the rest of you have a lovely rest of your day or evening or whenever, wherever you happen to be. And I will see you in just a minute.